You're on, Mr. Chairman.
I read it as a move.
Okay, Ann, you ready? Yes. Okay, at the end of April 25th, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the planning board. So I'd like to start with
Mark John McGinn.
Bob Kuhn,
Roger Moran.
Tad Redway, planner.
Ann Burgess, board secretary.
and
Up.
we do have public in attendance today. Thanks for being here, and it's nice to see an applicant before us. Tonight we're going to start with the approval of the minutes, April 4th, on the new application, Machine Tool. We'll look at some proposed revisions to the land use ordinance, specifically the estate lots as published, to the downtown business district 2. And we'll have some discussion, hopefully some actions tonight. Get a planner's report, open it up for any other business of the board or the public, and receive public comment. That being said, let's go to item number 1, approval of the minutes, April 4th.
I'll motion we approve them with one change that Bob wants to make up.
And I referred this to the planner under 7.2.7 landscaping, page 2, 6 paragraph down. It says the planner pointed out that section 5.6 is the general landscaping standards, and section 7.2.7 is specific to the DB1 district. Tad noticed that landscaping requirements are intended, I believe it should be are not intended, to make it difficult for business. So, minor, administrative,
Thank you.
different
But
change.
totally different. Thank you.
Okay, so have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, the minutes are approved. Let's say
That was a short meeting.
that was the one after.
That was a short meeting.
No.
Two, Rundle Machine Tool Company, proposal to construct a 2,000 square foot standalone garage in support of the existing manufacturing facility. And again, as published, I'm just going to call out 4 areas for presentation when you do, if you can just talk to them a little bit specifically. Under your notes, on the plan, 8, there's parking, those determinations. Number 9, project was going to require stormwater management change from main DEP. Item 10, the current facilities and that are serviced by septic. I just want to make sure any changes make that adequate. And then number 13, again, this goes to the wetland and your DEP permit and where you are with that. Okay? Ted, did you have any other comments that you'd like to make, or do an overview for the board and the public?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Essentially, the applicant proposes to build a 2,000 square foot freestanding garage in the northwest corner of the existing parking lot. I believe the last time we were out there, he had actually pointed out the location he was thinking about doing this. So this is a continuation of what the applicant's long-range plans for the facility. Because he's had several expansions that do not qualify for staff review, and that's why he's before you tonight instead of for staff, because that exemption is only for a one-time expansion. Review criteria, essentially you had asked the question, I'm going to steal the applicant's thunder, you had asked the question of what is the status of the DEP permit. The DEP permit has been granted by DEP for the stormwater revisions, the minor. I have a copy of the findings of fact here in the file. Essentially, there's nothing remarkable about it. It was dated April 12th. And basically goes through the standards, conditions of approval and best management practices that are to be used. No amendments to the drainage plan as the applicant has submitted to the board. So the DEP permit had no impact on the project as it had with the project plans that submitted to the board. So that's a big item that's off the agenda. As my notes, April 22nd stated, the use is that it's a garage. I'll let the applicant talk a little bit about that use. Space and bulk compliance, it is, frankly speaking, it meets all the setbacks, and the amount of impervious surface on the site is well below 70% for that district. In fact, it's about 30%. Then compliance with space and bulk. Parking, if it, as a garage does an accessory use, it does not require any additional parking. We did have some questions about parking spaces that are existing that are still shown to be in front of the doors to this garage. And the applicant hopefully will give us some insight onto how that garage works and whether or not those parking spaces will still be functional for employees to use. On-site facilities, there are no real changes. They will have to relocate the force main that comes out of the main manufacturing facility that goes to the septic field. Being a force main, it's a simple relocation. You don't have to worry about gradients because it's a pressurized system. They may or may not have to relocate them. They show it on the plans. Worst case scenario, we can relocate. Water, it's my understanding there won't be any septic or water required in this garage, so there's no connections. I did have a question about power. I assume it's going to be power going into the garage, maybe I'm wrong. Soil erosion control, the applicants provided adequate soil erosion control standards, silt fences at the toilet slope. The some grading, minor grading, to provide positive drainage. The drainage does go into the septic, into the wetlands to the west, however, that is, there's more in excess of 25-foot vegetated buffer strip between wetlands and the discharge point for that sheet flow. DEP didn't see a problem, we don't see a problem either, nor do we recommend review by staff engineer. Lighting, the applicant proposes no exterior lighting. And landscaping, since the applicant has more than adequate buffer areas, existing vegetation buffer areas around the entire perimeter of the property, there is no need for buffering, landscape buffering as part of this project. The applicant's also requested the waivers for medium intensity soil survey and landscape plan for obvious reasons, because the buffering landscape plan is free. That does not need to be submitted. And medium intensity soil survey is kind of, it's really unnecessary. We have a facility here, this is main land, there's no need for a medium intensity soil survey at this point. I know what the soils are, and it has no purpose or function, so I would recommend also the board waive that. From my perspective, given that we cleared up a couple of questions, I would say the application is complete, and we should move on to sidewalk if necessary, certainly to public hearing.
Pardon me. My name is Paul Gowers, for the record. I'm here to site plan for Marcel here this evening. A couple things. During the original design process, we originally had the sewer coming out in this location with the force main coming to the septic area. During the construction phase of the building, which I wasn't aware of, and Marcel made me aware of it, the sewer comes from the tank, which is here. This is the pump tank location. It comes in this direction, heads to the septic area. So it's not anyways near where our proposed location was, but during the original design, that's where I had it. So I said, well, if it's there, we need to obviously deal with it. So I talked to Marcel about that, and he was informed that no, they decided that after the fact, so they didn't come this way to the sewer, which is obviously fine with me. As far as the parking, originally I had parking spaces in front of the garage. I did remove 2 parking spaces. We don't need to remove 5 parking spaces. in order to access that garage. So I did remove two, which is an 18-foot travel entrance to get into the garage. Marcel has already added, in the recent past, additional parking spaces. On my original plan, I didn't have 2 parking spaces here, which Marcel has already striped and added. I didn't have 2 parking spaces over the tank, which Marcel has already striped and added. And I didn't have 2 parking spaces next to this loading dock, which Marcel has already striped and added. So he's actually added 6 parking spaces, since I did the project. So we really we're at 67. If you take away 2, we're gonna be down to from 61 to 65. So I think we still have adequate parking for the project. We actually increased it. There's room for additional parking. Obviously, if you wanted to, you could park a couple more cars here, but then you can also park another car in here. Where I guess he also doesn't need it because he probably strike with additional parking areas also. As far as we do the DEP permit for the project, we have not filling any wetlands, obviously, with the project. Here's the wetland edge right back here. So as Pat said, we have more than 25-foot buffer from the site to the wetland edge. We're not doing any lighting, any electrical whatsoever, no plumbing, no water, no lighting, no electricity service to the building whatsoever. So it's just going to be storage for equipment.
Cold storage for snow removal equipment and lawn equipment and stuff.
So, we did talk to Marcel. I said, you intend to do any lighting inside the building? He said, no, so we're not having any electrical lines whatsoever to them. So it's just basically going to be a cold storage garage for his equipment. And so I hope that answers your question, Bob. Parking, I don't think there's a problem with. We do have a permit from DEP, not filling in wetlands, and obviously the project is overhead utilities and public water and sewer, but we're not proposing to do anything for the addition. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that the board might have.
No, I think it's pretty much said it all.
Tom?
Yeah, it looks pretty low key. Just a couple little minor things. You'll be adding the 65 parking.
I already did it in this plan.
Okay.
Yes, so I've already amended this plan, so it said existing 61, now it's proposed at 65.
Good, you have that on there.
So that's already been taken care of. I've already showed the exact location of the sewer line where it is today, so I've already made those changes, obviously, to the plan.
Also, it's a little thing, I'm not sure how it disappeared, might have been one of your layers turned off.
Yeah.
The upper right-hand corner of the property, you have that bearing pointing to what I take was a pin.
This here?
Yeah, right there. So it shows up on the previous drawing, but it's not on there. Probably should be.
Yeah, I'll make sure that line is back in there.
Yeah, just
I'm sure
the location of the pin.
Yep, no problem.
And the other thing might be a question for the board and Pat is, you have all the square footage all figured out, and in your cover letter, you did say what the impervious coverage area is at 30.54%. Do we usually have that included on the notes, or it doesn't have to be?
I usually have that, I request that to be site data that's on the plan.
So it would be
It's
on-
in our notes, it's in the notes too.
But it doesn't have to be on the plan?
Usually it is on the plan.
Okay, could we add that on the plan?
I think you have it in gross square footage, Paul. You have the difference in square
I do.
footage.
I didn't show the percentage.
But
You
not
show
the
the
percentage,
percentage.
which is,
Correct.
for something.
So we have to do some math.
I think I can do that.
You're well within the,
I
yeah,
certainly
but
show
just have it on there, in case
same
anybody has
coverage.
a question, they can find it easy.
Yeah, not a problem.
That's it, other than that, I think it's a pretty straightforward. Marty?
Just a quick question. I understand the purpose of the building and everything else, and so it's, things are out of sight, out of scene, and everything else, but being located where it is out back, you gonna have any security?
Well, we currently, on the front of the building, pointing in that direction, we have security cameras.
Okay, I'm just thinking how usually you have like doors or anything else for security purposes, and with no electricity there, how would that be, in case somebody prying around with it and exposed to it, and does something, so that you're, I'm just thinking,
Right. but
Off the cuff type
camera-
thing?
The cameras will be reprogrammed that are on the building, they're PTZ cameras, so
Okay.
we're gonna go in and zoom in, kind of zoom out and record that.
and it was just to thinking, because the purpose of it, out of sight, out of scene.
Mhm.
I'm thinking, you know, I mean,
Yep.
that's the only reason why I was asking that question.
Anything else? Marty?
No.
Any other questions? Anybody from the public here for this particular project have comments? Everything looks fine. I would ask the board before making a motion to look at the medium intensity soil survey, non-functional, and there is a requirement that we review one before we grant a waiver. The landscaping, again, they're supposed to submit a plan, again, they have adequate, I'm just going back over what was said, but those are the two issues that I see for the board needs to.
Make a motion that, I guess I'll do one at a time, that we grant the waiver for medium intensity survey.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion by the board? Hearing none, all in favor?
Yeah.
It's unanimous. Greg wasn't here at the beginning, so you can't vote, but if
No,
you had a comment, you
abstain.
could. Okay.
Then I'll move on to the landscaping, that we grant the waiver for the landscaping
Plan.
plan. Yeah.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to waive submission of a landscape plan because of the landscaping already in place. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Yeah.
Okay. The last item the board needs to decide on, do you feel that we need to do a sidewalk prior to approving this? Several of the board members here were at the original.
I don't think it's necessary. No, there's nothing, there's putting a garage.
Yeah.
Okay?
If that be the case, I guess the next motion is a public hearing.
Still have to do that.
I'd like to make a motion to schedule a public hearing. Or can we do it 2 weeks from tonight?
Point of order, though, first you have to determine the application.
Oh, okay.
Before you do that.
Or should say that, determine it complete and schedule it.
Okay, provided that the application is complete, which I believe it is, I'd like to schedule a public hearing. Well, that's all I can make a motion, we accept the application as being complete.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion deeming the application complete, request to schedule a public hearing. Have a second.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Yeah.
Okay, next available date, Mr. Plant? May 9th?
You get the notification in the paper, actually I'll send it tonight after the meeting to make sure that it's in there. Adequate time.
Good presentation, nice project.
Thank you very much.
Well, nice plans.
We'll see you in tonight.
Good job, that was amazing. He really went to.
2,000.
Okay, we are going to move on. Proposed revisions to the land use ordinance. First item on the agenda. I'm going to turn this over to Ted. Revision to 77B 8A for estate lots. Have a proposal to actually permit the estate lots in D1 and AC in the way that it was drafted initially and entered, it would not allow for that. Pat, if you could go from there.
Yeah, this is, Mr. Chairman, this is actually kind of a small housekeeping detail that we can actually be able to do this at town meeting. It has actually been brought to our attention by a property owner, Mr. Watson, who sent a letter which you all received copies of.
which was April, I believe it was April 4th. They handed them out at that meeting that night. And it's been brought to our attention that, as you recall, the estate lot was intended for residential uses, and it was intended to provide an option for people to develop back lots without having to go through the expense of building a private way for a single-family home. And because of that, the board had established that it would be allowed in all districts. But after serious consideration, the board thought, whoa, wait a second, there's a couple of the districts that we would want to reconsider that. And the first and foremost one was the BI district, because the BI district, as you recall, you made changes so that residential development in the BI district, new residential development would have to essentially be associated with a business use. What I think we have at this point is, what that did is that essentially, and you require that all estate lots be essentially prohibited in the BI district and the HC district, and the RP district for obvious reasons in the RP district. But you basically said, okay, we're going to exclude them from the BI district. Because we also had a major concern, because we did not want to have any additional curb cuts along Route 1, more than what it was absolutely necessary. The reason being, as we've discussed before, is that wonderful sort of Damocles, which the state always holds over municipalities when they approach the 7,000 person population mark, and a certain number of curb cuts on state highways. When you reach that threshold, suddenly you become the great inheritor of a state highway in which you're responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of that highway. There is a potential, and Arundel has to be careful about it, given the number of curb cuts that we allow to occur on Route 1 or Route 111 over time, that we could prematurely have to take over that section of Route 1 and be the maintainers of it. No different than what Biddeford has to do, or Saco has to do. They're responsible for those highways. So we want to basically make sure that we don't get urban compact designation beforehand. So that's why we said at the time that we didn't need it. Well, there's only one problem, that in the BI district we have two roads that are not state highways that we wouldn't have to worry about. One is, of course, the Old Post Road, and the other one is also Proctor Road. And those are two existing roads that would not impact, curb cuts would not impact our designation, for urban compact. And if we were to have development in BI, where people, let's say we did have a PUD where somebody's actually building business up front and they have a road that goes in, and they wanted to do some residential development, pull some estate lots off the back, large estate lots off the back, they couldn't do it in the BI district, even though, again, that would not have any impact on our urban compact designation, but it would essentially prohibit it. And it seemed a little excessive under the circumstances. So the applicant had asked me, he's got a situation on Proctor Road where he wants to basically divide a property down there. He happens to be in the BI district, wants to divide off, got a larger lot, wants to divide off a piece to build another house on for himself, and he can't do it because we have an exception that doesn't allow private ways in the BI district. Normally we don't like to do it for one individual, but then as we looked into this more and more, we saw that this is an endemic problem throughout the whole district.
How far back is the business district along the road? If you're putting in a state lot, that's going to be back to the rear end.
Well, it's a linear kind of thing. Do you have anything that should? No, I didn't bring that up.
I didn't think, because usually it's your 1,000-foot back.
Yeah, it's 1,000 foot back, but see, Proctor, a good portion of Proctor Road is within the BI district, even though the Proctor Road it's not really, it's well suited for business and industrial development, it really isn't. It's just we had that 1,000-foot rule that we used for zoning back when the zoning was passed. And same thing on, as you recall, same things on Old Post Road, where it intersects with Route 1. And there's sections of that that are within the BI district that are residential, but they're designated as business, and you couldn't pull an estate lot there. Nor could you pull an estate lot off of, as I said, if we were to have a development in the BI district that wasn't designated like the seasonal cottages, and they were to put in a private road or a new road, wanted to put all estate lots off that, again, we couldn't do that in the BI district. So, the question really is, what are we really achieving by having this restriction on estate lots for residential purposes in the BI district? Are we achieving the goal that we originally wanted to achieve, which was to prevent unusual amount of curb cuts on Route 1?
Well,
Question.
I hear that the intent was to have best value, utilize the business district as business as much as possible. Can you show me on that map where we're talking?
No, I can't. I can't show you on this map. This map ends,
This is actually the deviant districts. This ends, this is way up at the far end. This is a Bedford border.
At the end where it comes out
Over the bridge.
It's over the bridge.
Over the
See,
bridge,
Proctor
around
Road
the-
comes in right at the boundary with Bedford. And it comes in and does a dog leg. And so there are properties in there that are within the BI district and they're residential. We have the same situation with Old Post Road, as you well know.
But also too, somewhere along that way, two other things. You also have the railroad tracks, which, on the Old Post Road,
Yeah.
so that eliminates crossing the railroad tracks.
I didn't follow, I'm sorry.
Because on the other side of the railroad tracks, it's,
A lot of property you just can't get to.
well, no, we eliminated that because, it's for, what is it, reserve on the other side of the railroad tracks.
Resource protection.
Resource protection.
Okay. Well, where you have resource protection, you can't develop anyways. You only can develop one lot in a resource protection district.
You know,
So you have no need to have an estate lot in a resource protection district because you cannot develop in the resource protection district. And if you are in a resource protection district, you're only allowed to have one house if you can find a place to put septic and you can find a place to get a well.
Chad,
You can do that, but we don't need it for the resource protection district.
if I'm looking through the land use table,
Yeah.
you see that single family, first of all, I'm in favor of making that change, but single families are restricted in B and I. First, they're not allowed at all if they're two-family, multifamily. And conditional single family, in the sense that it's provided, it has to be an accessory and subordinate to the commercial operation on the property. So that's a problem in addition.
That's true, that is.
And I know, remember what the intent was, we want to have a true industrial zone without houses, because they don't always mix well together, but that road is already existing, it's been there forever, and it's all residents, I don't think there's any business unless the home is.
And you talk about, Old
Proctor-
Proctor,
Proctor.
Proctor Road has one garage in there, and it has a sawmill.
Okay,
And that's all it has for businesses.
No, there's another, way down.
well, there's some
Within
home
the business
businesses.
district.
No, within the business.
Yeah.
how many lots are we actually talking?
How many lots, what, for an estate lot?
That are on Proctor Road or Old Post Road that are in the BI.
We're only talking
Not
about-
all of them.
No, we're talking about very few. Probably talking about maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. Less than 10.
It's hard to make
Yeah, I mean, you can't make it on the,
Probably, all old posts is probably, they're all already divided as much as it can be. I don't know if you can
Except for the power lines.
see that within the B and I routine.
No. Not everything. It does.
So if we were to change, if we were to change that, I think we'd also
So I have to
have to take a
change.
look at.
yeah, we'd have to take a look at that too.
You're absolutely right.
Yep, good point. Didn't
How
realize
far
that.
back is the applicant's property in the BI district?
It's near the edge. It's near the outer edge of the BI district.
But does the majority of his,
It's all in the BI district.
I'm gonna say, it's like how we had on North Skillings Road, where it crossed different zones and the majority of it was in the residential instead of,
It's all in the business zone.
okay, I'm just trying to,
Understood, and it's a good point. But unlike that, which was split, this is all in that district.
I'm trying to actually picture it now where it is on Old Post Road, Proctor Road.
The applicant buy the property before.
Are you guys, is there something you'd like to say about it?
Oh.
So that, I mean, to help clarify for us?
To clarify for you, if you're over the bridge,
Charles, could you identify yourself to the camera for the folks at home? And come forward.
Yeah.
That's
Smile.
hello, Charles Watson, Proctor Road, Arundel resident. Go over the bridge,
Down the loop.
around the loop, you go past Patton's Garage.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the first house on the right. I am right beside the railroad tracks. It's completely, I'm in a residential area that got rezoned. I bought, what was the district when we bought it?
I think it was probably 3.
It was.
AC2,
It was a farming
is it the
deal.
old King place?
Yes.
Okay, that's where now, that's where I was trying to get the,
And the zoning has caused, the zoning changes has caused a hardship. We want out of the property, we're not going to have a family, but it's a big family home. I need to be able to split that lot and build myself a reasonable home where I'm not, taxed to death and going broke trying to heat it. That's the long and short of it. The zoning's created a bit of a hardship. Anything else I can answer for you guys?
I was just trying to place it where it was.
Great.
I do that all the time.
Yeah, I do that, that's okay. I'll let you know once.
Great, thank you.
This is more for, okay, isn't this more of a zoning board issue than a?
Well,
I'm just,
right now, the only way he could do that is to do an estate law. I mean, frankly speaking, the only way you could do this kind of development, he's got a good chunk of property, but without having to build a private way, he can do an estate law. Essentially, he would have to build a private way in order to access back there, and this is exactly what an estate lot needs to do.
yeah,
And his private way would be the same design standard as this, but he'd have to go through engineering and all this other stuff that you wouldn't have to with an estate lot. And his situation is exactly why we came up with an estate lot. That was the intent. People want to divide off the back portion of the land, get in there without having to build an expensive road. That's why we did the estate lots. And he'd be the first one to do it. Well, actually, we do actually have one on Brimstone, but he'd be the second one to do it. But he's more textbook. The other guys are not less textbook. Does he have, from your standpoint, is he aggrieved by the zoning?
When did you purchase? Was it before the zoning change?
It was 2004 when we purchased the house.
Okay.
Yeah,
change came in 2005, if you recall, or 2007, wasn't it?
Set.
The problem is that you wouldn't be able to meet the four criteria,
That's about when the comprehensive plan went through.
the four criteria for variance, because he's already realized the reasonable return by having a house in the first place. So, you can't do it by variance. And I wasn't looking to provide him with relief by using the zoning ordinance, I was looking at his situation as one that we were gonna have similar problems elsewhere in the district.
We probably will eventually.
Yeah, and I thought, rather than, and then what Charles was doing was showing that he was sort of like the canary in the cage, saying, we do have a little problem, we're allowing this everywhere else, we're allowing this on Route 1 in the CCN district, we're allowing this in the CCS district, what will be the DB, DB1 and DB2. Why the BI? What makes BI special? And we've got actually more risk of having what the state would consider to be excessive curb cuts in the DB1 and the DB2 districts than we will having it along Route 1 in the BI district, because there's no pressure in the BI district. We've got a lot of pressure here.
I think it was a result of us trying to minimize the residential impact on the business. And so I think we restricted homes from being built, and that was probably a follow-up just to lock it down. It made sense at the time, but we weren't thinking of Proctor Road. The rest of it, there's no road, so it's not an issue. I guess we could put, if there was a road, we could put in, but it wouldn't even be allowed because we don't allow a resident unless it's part of the business, so it was something that would never happen.
Well, if we were to have a PUD, or if we were to have a project like the seasonal cottages, or a mixed-use project that goes into the BI district, which probably has a better chance than a traditional subdivision of any kind, it could contain a residential component, but it would need to be subordinate, as it says, to the business component. Which means you could have 25 lots of residential, but you have 50 lots of business. That's subordinate too.
Okay, yeah.
So, the note 11, under the land use table, land use by district, page 37, if we adjusted or considered changing 11 itself, and just called out there that an estate lot, one split, an estate lot, and or these other, single-family residential use may be permitted as a conditional use. All of the rest that was there, and or a single estate lot for existing property owners or something. I mean, would that not do it? I mean, I guess it opens up the other area, but
Yeah, I mean, you can make it very narrow, and you can make it very, very laser-like narrowness to it. We could do that, but, I mean, the intent was that we not have large residential subdivisions in the BI district.
yeah, that's why I said single.
That was
estate
the
lots
concept.
were to allow those people that had land that they didn't have access to be able to go back there and at least build a building. I'm not sure about all of this region threshold stuff. I must have been absent in mind during those meetings. But, and to make sure that best use, the talk and discussions at the lower end were all of the character and the rest, and trying to keep business in the business areas so that we could designate it, promote it, et cetera. But Dan, you had a question too.
The pattern of development on a Proctor Road is strictly residential. I mean, there are probably there's two garages there.
But one's not in the business, one's way beyond.
Way behind. So, I mean, I guess, part of zoning, right, is to mimic patterns of development, right? Because we've done that before. We've made zoning changes based on developmental patterns. You know, we made the growth zones based on what was actually happening. So why wouldn't we kind of just take maybe the Park Road or that side of Route 1 and rezone that to encompass what's there today? I mean, do you see a pattern of businesses going over there? Chances are, you're probably not gonna see anything there. You may on the other side where the antique place is, may. But, you know, so why don't you rezone that, maybe just rezone that section right there, just to make sure that that's allowable.
I'll give it to you, Marty. I agree with the comments, number one. However, what you're suggesting is not only a change to the tables and to the estate lots, but to the zoning maps and all of that would all have to be done and ready for what is, to me, could be a diminutive, almost a diminutive change, but before the people at this time. The zoning itself should be a little bit forward-thinking, and I think that's what the board was trying to do before, say this is where we want that business to grow kind of in the future, and/or, as you suggested, mimic kind of what is there, and that happens all of the time. That's why we stop.
Well, Rick, just a small correction, sorry to jump in on the whole topic. I think if we did that zoning change, that's the only thing we'd have to change. We wouldn't have to do anything about this conditional use or state, because we just bring R3 zone into the residential area that's already there, and that would, because it's in the R3, would already inherit what's allowed.
And the maps that are all going to have to be changed with all of these other ones, the maps, it's our land use map that determines what it is. It doesn't matter what's written anywhere.
I think that written or mapping, it's still, I think it's the same thing, whether it's words or visuals. I think it's a change that means the same thing.
Okay, with you in 1 second. Marty, you have a comment?
Yeah, question to ask. Can't he do that if he has a common, instead of having a new road cut or for a driveway, if he has a common driveway entrance at present and extend it to other part of the lot to put a house back there where he could turn around and give himself or anything else the access of right of way to power and power easements or anything else?
No. Can't do it.
Why?
Same table.
Single-family home, one lot, one single-family home. One lot, one residence, unless it's a duplex.
Sorry.
So,
Kind of would rather see this go as a zone change. The mapping changes are easy things to make. And, it costs a couple of bucks to do, but mapping changes are mapping changes. I do believe the maps have to be changed within 30 days of the zone changes.
Well, I actually would have to, if we were to do a zone change, we'd have to notify every property owner in the B1
Right,
district.
and they would have to.
And I'd have to mail them a map
Public
change.
hearing and.
Yeah, and whether we can make it by town meeting is.
Well,
No, but there's no, unless we sit here and try and wordsmith some special exception to put estate lots in a place where residences aren't even allowed without a business, you know, now we're getting even craftier than we've been for the last 6 months. I think the zone change is the cleanest way to go. Even with all the notifications, with all the changes, with everything, I think it would be.
We also have businesses that will be impacted by that zone change too.
yes.
Well, we can craft the zone change so that it's just those lots that are residential as opposed to all of them.
But, question also to ask,
Yeah, it would be nice to be able to see what is there. and
Yeah, I
where
think
it-
we need a
and where
map to
that-
look at.
And where it could be moved. Go ahead, Mark.
by the zone change down through there, also you might turn on effect because you only, technically without a new road cutout, you have where the bridge is, you can have access to the other side of the road underneath the bridge.
I'm sure I understand.
Well, you follow Proctor Road,
Yeah.
okay? And where you have, instead of turning around and creating another estate lot or anything else, and say if you wanted to go back where wood structures was or anything else at one time, you still have access underneath the bridge for the road.
Get one of those railroad cars.
No,
yourself.
That would be on other people's property and stuff, right?
He only has one.
No, I'm
He had
just
one
saying,
lot.
there's a zone change, that's where I'm going at.
Yeah,
Or if
well,
I'm
that's
wrong.
why- That's why we, with the zone change, we really need to look at what you're changing and to what degree. And I believe everybody in the zone has to be notified.
Yes, it did. Everybody knows on this one.
I remember when we were coming up with the B&I zone, we did question Park Road, like, what do we do with it? And we just didn't seem to have any reason not to just keep it with the written zone.
Yeah,
Part of that
I
was
think it
because it
do
was-
you just cut back to
Like
that?
what Charlie says, is turn out, it almost butts the resource protection area. I mean, so it was useless. I mean,
Or, appeared to be.
Right.
Does their property abut the zone line, or
No,
no? There's more property between them?
there's actually a business on the other side.
So they have to be
Oh, all right.
included, they have to be included in the rezoning as well.
Well, you'd be making an existing business non-conforming.
do they have a home occupation business?
No.
Yeah.
Home occupation is subservient to the residential use, so that won't work.
Well,
This is not the only case we're gonna encounter in this situation.
Well, no.
Well, it's, I'm a little
Sorry,
concerned,
no.
I think that the zone change might be a little drastic from the standpoint that we would impact existing businesses. I'm not sure that would be well received.
now if Charlie had his own business out there, would that be,
And,
If there were a business, it would be allowed as long as it was smaller than an accessory to a business. So that, but I don't think you want to start a business and do a home.
The non-conforming business that would be there may not necessarily really be impacted, right? I mean, obviously, they're still allowed to continue.
Yeah.
They're allowed to expand up to X amount of percent based on our ordinance, so I'm not sure what the business is, but, you know, if we're gonna make that business non-conforming, obviously, we get their input, but, you know, it may not have really that much of an effect on the business that's there.
We haven't seen a lot of demand to have businesses move into that area. They're all paying business taxes, so.
I don't think so until you're
No.
actually a business.
Oh, okay. So I guess possible.
Yeah, it stays, I think it stays what it is until you have to use it. So, yeah, 'cause
I don't know what
I was
the easiest-
concerned about that before when we were creating that.
I don't know what the easiest solution is here. To me, it sounds like a map change.
I think eventually you gotta have it incorporated into the map. I was just hoping to get a
Problem with
way to
doing,
move through.
the other change is, it's changing the whole zone as well. You know, it's not just that street. We'd be changing the entire zone. So then, what are we not seeing that might happen as a result of that?
well, I think our biggest concern was we didn't want to see people putting in. Our biggest concern was we didn't want to see, first of all of Route 1 along VI is subdivided into residential, lots. And the one place that we have designated is for business purposes, even though we're finding out more and more the land is not that attractive for business purposes. Which is why why it's been slow.
That and the economy.
That and the economy, of course, the economy is a big thing. So the idea was to business first, residential second. That was the concept. But we have existing residential, area. I agree with Greg, the idea of gerrymandering the map so that so that you can make it a residential zone, because most of the street is residential, and we have an existing business on the other side of them that is an existing business that would be made non-conforming by this, and that's an impact to them. And that's a big concern.
And maybe a big concern. Because as non-conforming, they're limited in some of the future expansion.
But you gotta look at the business, right, what type of business it is, if they can expand, you know, again, I heard it was a garage or something.
Well, there's a
Well, the
sawmill.
sawmill is way down.
Yeah.
Sawmill is not in the BI district.
No.
Yeah, it is, it's next to us. It's the next lot next to us. The end of the road, there's an additional garage, which is not in the BI district.
So the sawmill is in the BI district.
Yeah. I was just trying to chase where the footage was.
Yeah.
But also too, on that side of the road, where Charlie's house is, you can't even see it for a business purpose, even going over the bridge.
Because it's a bridge.
Yeah, see, we have 11 circumstances there already.
Make this not apply to,
Not apply to the other area.
to non.
11, if you apply that only to state roads, 11, maybe 111. and
No, not
one.
just state roads, just make it to 2 roads. Make it specific to Proctor and Old Post Road.
Would-
How
So
about
it still can come in on mountain condition.
Yes, because Mountain Road still goes into the BI district.
Don't we have that reversed? No.
How so?
You would need to change specific for B1, number 1. It goes back 1,000, the B1 district off of 1 goes back, which you guys get caught in. So the change is to B1.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're saying to excluding Proctor Road.
Yeah, Proctor Road and Old Post Road.
How far on Old Post Road?
As far as the B1, as far as the B1 is.
Because where we had down near Champaign on Old Post Road, we had done that change.
Yep.
Can you
Without a map,
realize
it's
what
hard
you're,
to
what you're
picture.
thinking there, because it just seems reversed. I mean, it seems like if 11 was made more specific for all of this, where it's secondary and that, those are the 2 areas where we want 11 to apply. Or even if it's 1.
I'm sure Ted can verify this or not, but I think he was thinking about adding something to 11, but I think he's in, the thought that if it's not written in the ordinance, then it's excluded. I think we would actually have to change single family to permitted and make note 11 the conditional use for on Route 1.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Because we have, right now,
That's right.
I see what
So I
you're saying.
think
That,
Yeah.
the other way would be backwards, and I don't think,
I see what you're saying.
But the danger
it's in the rule of exclusion, you'd have to exclude them from being allowed residential at all.
There's a danger to that, though, in that someone could be allowed to put in a 50-lot subdivision if we did allow it. Then what could we get? I think we could open up, and maybe it's not an issue, but it would. I think it opened the door to all residential in there. Wouldn't it?
You also have limitations
Well,
of
that's why we call
soil
it
conditions.
specifically for estate lots.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think there's 2 issues. Estate lot's one thing, Then there's this conditional use is
Well,
another thing.
I think, Tom, before you can give them an estate lot, you've got to make residential allowed.
And how do we, so how we do it? Maybe
We gotta put that horse before the cart here.
Right, so we have to take care of
For
that.
back lot.
But how can we
Residential
allow,
use allowed in back lot.
how can we allow residential use on Proctor Road and not the rest of the B&I? That's what I'm wondering. It's-
Because the majority of it's residential already.
Right, but how do we word that? Right now, it's a zone. We do it by
Correct,
zone.
but
I think we do it by changing the chart, changing the conditional under BI from C to P,
So either that or Terry, what
from
you do is,
conditional to permitted, then residences are allowed. And then in note 11, it would state that single-family residential are permitted as, we can limit the residentials to a note.
the only other way you could do it, turn out, put south of the railroad tracks. Because turn out the railroad tracks is your boundary.
For Proctor.
Actually, I've got a solution, gentlemen. Consider this.
Okay.
First of all, Greg is right. If omitted uses pertain to our existing ordinance, but omitted uses is not part of this ordinance that we have right now. Omitted uses is a provision of the new ordinance, which we will not have passed in time by June.
Yeah.
So we are still under we are under specifications here, which means that things are called out, have to be called out as prohibited, to be prohibited.
All
Or
right.
more importantly, if you can shoehorn a use into one of the classifications, if you can shoehorn a use into the classification and to meet the code enforcement officer's definition,
Yeah, the code
it's a
enforcement
go.
officer.
He makes that determination. So, in that case, C, if we look at single-family homes or single-family residence in the chart as it stands right now, it is a conditional use, only under the circumstances as follows. The single-family residential use can be permitted as a conditional use, provided the residential use is accessory and subordinate to a primary commercial operation on the property, or the residential lot has legal frontage on Proctor or Old Post Road.
Works for me.
We can't even
What was
get,
that last part?
or the
Or.
residential lot has legal frontage on Proctor or Old Post Road. Of which case, a
So any,
estate lot would have legal frontage. They would have legal frontage. By establishing a state lot, they would have legal frontage.
and
That also would preclude the backdoor approach.
it would also allow residential to fill in if residential were next, if there were any other one that could, I like that.
And then you still gotta make changes to this.
Would have to.
Before, you still do the.
We still keep going, and then when it comes, I mean, in the new one, this won't exist.
Right.
And we will have to make the determination, because, you know, frankly, we went through the BI, which we never officially approved all the BI. You know, we have to go back and revisit that, because, as you recall, we never had the final vote on mining in that area. And we never had the final vote on the map delineation of that area. But,
And we focused all on the southern edge, we haven't really focused anything up at the northern and.
no, we did.
at the beginning.
If you recall, we had requests that we have a gateway zone, which we talked about making it a DB1 zone, so we don't have to invent a new district.
That would be the
No, but
gateway
my
zone.
point being, we haven't finalized anything up
No,
north. We have not-
well, no, we haven't, we've come this close, and we're like one performance standard away from it in the mining. I think it was in mining decibel levels, or vibration, that's what it was. It was the vibration levels that could be measured for blasting. I think that was the only thing that prevented us from going. And then, for some reason, we jumped over in the DB1 district, because we thought we were
Well,
done,
there
or
was-
we were gonna be done.
there
We
was-
haven't.
Well, there were
approved
going
it.
to be some submissions improved.
Which didn't happen.
Which never happened.
Right.
So the board didn't have enough information to make a determination.
I think we're a potential solution. Greg, do you want to make that as a motion?
Yeah, I'll move that we, is this a suggestion to,
This is a language amendment to section,
See 11.
yeah, well, I gotta get the first section.
Is this something that has to
We have to
go
have
to,
public hearing and selectmen.
alright,
Section, so this is gonna be section 6.2.
so this would be a motion to have a public hearing?
Well, first to adopt this language.
Okay.
6.2, note 11, because.
Of the Arundel Land Use
note 11,
District table.
yeah. And it would be to add the following
language.
to section 6.2, note 11, as follows.
On the, or the residential lot has
Frontage.
legal frontage on Proctor or Old Post Road. Alright, so I move that we change section
I'll second that.
6.2, note 11, to add that to the end of note 11.
I'll second that.
Did you get that? I'll come up with better wording if we need.
I have a motion, I have a second, any other discussions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Okay.
Now, the last thing I have to do is get approved by the town vote. So, we're all in favor it happens. but the town has-
What's that?
I don't see that being a problem. I don't know why anybody would object to that.
This change.
Could,
But
you think that could,
it's on the
that could be
Oh,
ready?
that is the,
You can make it as part of this section. Part of this agenda.
do that for town board?
Technically,
So these
you
are
could.
deadlines.
Yeah, what are the deadlines?
Well, this doesn't need to get into the report, the town report book, right, for meeting?
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
does, it has to be in the warrant.
Well, it has to be
Be on the warrant, but
for
doesn't
the
have to be included
appendixes,
in it.
right? Because
Yes.
because today would be the deadline for all ordinance changes done in order to be printed in the town report book. However, right, that's what I'm thinking.
It has to be a warrant, the warrant has to be on there.
Yeah, it has to be a warrant, but it doesn't have to be in the book.
Right, that's what I'm saying, it doesn't have to be in the book.
How's it done then? 'Cause we
On
were-
the
goes to
appendix,
town for
the
vote,
appendix.
once approved.
It's, May 28th is when the warrant will be signed by the selectmen, because they meet the day after Memorial Day.
Right,
And all appendixes are due at that time. In
Right.
other words, they have to see it and sign it.
but
that
you
day.
have to have a warrant question in the ordinance.
You could write something and reference the appendix, couldn't you, and then have the appendix available at town hall for people to see. You check this a little bit, I'm pretty sure.
So you're saying the deadline's today?
The deadline today to put anything
To
in the
put
book.
anything, to have it
Report
printed in
will
the
publish.
town report book. Like, if we were gonna do the whole land use ordinance, like we had originally planned to do, today would be the deadline for any changes the board chose to make for that. You know, the whole new ordinance we were gonna try to do,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
which didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I think that it'll be all set, just do it as an appendix.
It's like a handout.
Well, no, I understand that, because we've done it that way before, but
Right.
we've always had the warrant in the book. We've always had the
We've done
warrant
last
question.
minute things before.
I know, but we've always had the warrant question.
We've had, we've had appendixes before.
It wouldn't be that
before
hard
the
to get
meeting.
in the book.
At the time.
Right.
What do you say,
I
when
mean-
you had, what to put in the book?
Simone's not done with the book yet, you still have time to give her something to put.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
that
I've
hasn't even
got,
gone to the-
I don't think she's even put in the applicant's zone
Right,
change.
she's still compiling
The
it, so
what?
you still have
The
time to
applicant's
get
zone
that.
change.
Over on-
Over on, Old Alfred Road, which is,
So you
we've
still
already
have
done
time.
all our work on that.
Yeah, we just approved it Monday.
Right.
So are we gonna need a public hearing?
We're gonna need a public hearing, and I gotta have 14 days of that notice on that.
Could do it May 9th.
I
Get
can,
till
no, I
the
can't
end
do it
of-
on the 9th. I need 14 days of notice.
You're doing a public hearing for
14 days of notice.
Arundel Machine?
14 days of notice, which means I had to advertise today in the paper. By
Well,
state
you're
law.
meeting the 23rd,
Yeah, meeting on the 23rd.
and the warrant will be signed by the selectmen on
On
the
the
28th.
28th.
Right.
So
So as long as
we can be
everything
out.
goes good then, we can sign it on the 28th. and-
Fine.
And the warrant's.
Can we move a meeting from the 9th to the?
Well, I think
No, we
No, I
might
don't-
get a public hearing scheduled.
You got a public hearing scheduled.
Yeah, but if you turn out, post it for the say 9th, turn 7, and it's the 16th.
We could do it on the 23rd, and it gives me enough time to make. See, remember, Marty, I have to post it twice in the paper by state law. See, our current ordinance isn't in compliance with state law. The new one is, but the old one, every ordinance we've ever, I won't say that, but.
They were all submitted,
Yes.
What?
our ordinance.
Well, I'm not saying it wasn't, it's just, it's a 14-day notice, not a 7. Our ordinance requires a 7, but the state requires 14. You remember that? I mean, that was one of the first, remember we had to go through those gyrations for shoreline zoning?
We were
And
fine
Tom
for
came in
us.
at the last moment to sign.
We were fine for a run-over.
Yeah, we were fine for a run over, we weren't fine for the state.
So is that part of the book also?
That would have to be, well, you have to also make a decision on holding a public hearing for that, and you still haven't dealt with your state law. Language.
Okay,
So that would be,
let's turn
But
to something more than me.
This wouldn't fall under the estate law.
no, this is a separate, this would, I've combined them into one warrant. We've done that before. We made 2 questions in one warrant. We've done that a lot.
Yeah, but turn it- if one doesn't pass and the other does, the warrant doesn't pass.
Right.
Well, so,
That's the chance you take. If you recall, I don't think we've had an issue of any, the last, 3 years, we haven't had any real debate over any of our ordinance at town meeting.
I don't even have 7.
I don't see this being
Yeah.
controversial at all.
I would have seen problems with changing the map. I would have seen pushback.
I know we've approved that, but again, it got back to allowing the state lots rather than all residential.
Do you not have this, which I sent out to you? 7, that's a revision of 7B,
I don't have it.
8A. You can have mine.
So are we all done on this, on that?
Well,
I made a motion and passed.
we had the motion and that passed.
Yeah. So it's the agenda item now, which is 7B,
Right.
8, which is language change. And
Okay,
there's
so-
2 language changes in there for you. Bring this down.
But now, but do we need to do these now?
Yes.
Why?
Because right now, we still have the same, we had the same problem we came in here with.
You're still in the BI district.
We're still in the BI district.
That note doesn't exclude the residences from the BI district, they're still in the BI district, it just tells you that you can have residences there. No 11. So you still have to address the BI
Right,
district.
exactly.
The estate law.
This is what we started, this is the agenda item, and this is what we started discussing. Which is the private way access. Yeah. It should be, it was with, yeah, there you go. I have it.
Okay, so yeah, option number 2, if I read this correctly, I mean, either one of these, 2 is inclusive of 1 and 111, option 1 is just group 1.
Option 1 takes care of the problem that exists right now that I described at the beginning of this agenda item, which was that we're overly restrictive on our private way, or excuse me, on our access, our state lots, in areas where we don't have, where they won't have curb cut impacts on Route 1 in the BI district.
The second option was being actually more restrictive. It was extending the limitations of state lots to any state highway. So that would apply to, also to DB1 and DB2, and it would also apply to what we now know as CCN. So it was being more restrictive, and it's going to confuse the issue if we go that way right now. So I would recommend we just look at option one, because we're running out of time.
And where are you calling HC?
HC is the current HC district. Because despite all we're working on right now.
There's a reason I'm asking, is because I'm changing all these different ones around. Where is actually HC?
HC is the highway commercial district that we affectionately call the Mariana project, right? Call it?
Yeah.
Isn't that the small little block that where Mariana was putting in the car deals?
Yeah. That's essentially it.
I think you were.
Oh, yeah.
No, but that was, then you're coming off Old Sam's Road.
Okay.
Am I
State
right?
lot shall
It's
be
the existing
for
HC district.
residential.
We haven't changed any zones yet. We proposed to change zones, but we haven't changed any zones yet. So it's the existing HC district, which is basically Weirs and across the street. That's the current HC zone.
And we're not going to change. See, I don't see a need. Why do we need to change the zone?
Because
We don't
HC,
change the zone. We're not
We don't want to change the zone.
We're not changing the zone in this. All I'm doing is saying that basically you can do this in any place.
The state.
Yeah, we're basically saying, look, you can put it in any you can put it in a state lot for residential use in all zoning districts except for the RP. Except, right now it says except in the VI and the HC districts. But here, we're changing it to say that it's where required access strip for the state lot fronts onto Route 1. We're saying we're limiting it just to where it comes out onto Route 1.
Yeah, that.
So instead of saying Proctor Road and so forth, we're saying, and in this case, there also could be, frankly speaking, Old Post Road in the rear, it could actually almost be Sam's Road or whatever. We're just saying, if it's on Route 1, if it's not on Route 1, it doesn't apply. This restriction does not apply.
Okay.
Then why don't we want to go with option 2 so that we're restricting the law?
Well, that was the option I gave you, but that would also restrict DB1. I gave you two options, and maybe I shouldn't have done it. Because I think more and more, when we look at the lots on DB2,
well, we don't have that zone yet.
We're not,
Yeah, we don't.
This is
we'll
what's
deal with
getting
that later.
confusing.
We do
You're
one and one
talking
eleven.
about.
Yeah, we don't, yeah, we have the BI.
Correct.
And we have HC current. We don't have DB1, DB2.
But option 2 would cover Route 1 and Route 111.
yeah. Option,
that's right.
option 2 would cover all of Route 1 and 111. Option 1 covers only the BI district and the HC district. And I would recommend going with option 1 at this point.
Why not allow, what is the rationale for not allowing that on 111? I mean,
so we're gonna hold it out for,
I mean, they're making.
Because right now we don't. Right now we allow it.
we do,
Yeah, we do.
because it's the zone.
No, because the language that, if you look at the language right now, if we looked at it, it's a zoning ordinance right now. The way it is right now in 7B,
If it ain't written, it's allowed.
yeah. Let me read the exact language as it is currently in the zoning ordinance, as it is. Remember, these are things we're doing stopgap until we pass the new ordinance. What it says right now, it says, estate lots shall be permitted for residential uses in all zoning districts except for BI, HC, and RP.
So all we're doing is we're changing that to say the same thing, only,
Where the required the only change is really where the required access strip for the estate lot from time to time.
correct.
Okay. I like it. But these are and.
Yeah, but the Proctor Road isn't, the Proctor Road is not on Route 1.
That's right, so it's
Right,
allowed.
exactly.
It would be allowed.
Exactly, so it would be allowed.
Okay.
Yeah, quite frankly, if we were to do option two, I've got to notify everybody in that district. And we're taking away the rights, the current rights they have to do this. I'm sorry about that.
But it's already allowed.
Yes, exactly. And we would be taking it away, which means I'd have to notify everyone in the district.
Yeah, so it's.
So let's take it away. Option two doesn't exist. I'm withdrawing it.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah, that's why I don't like to. But,
We
okay,
can
let's
discuss
board
it
feel.
for the new zoning ordinance.
Are there any other comments before the board makes motion? Hearing none? I have motion.
Move to change the language of 77E8A zoning districts to read, estate lots shall be permitted for residential use in all zoning districts, except in any RP district and except in B, I, and HC districts where the required access strip for the estate lot fronts on Route 1.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Okay.
All right. I will schedule a public hearing for as soon as possible date, which will probably be 23rd, and we should make one notifications. And you get to do this again.
Sorry?
New ordinance, if you want. If you want to consider option two, we can do that on the new ordinance.
So the public hearing will be the 23rd.
23rd. Public hearing.
As long as you don't call out 111, it is allowed. So, I mean,
It's a lot, man.
yeah, I mean, as long as we don't do something else, those folks aren't indicted, these folks now can do it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Going to move on to Downtown Business District 2, discussion with action uses and design standards. We've done a lot of work in the area for the DB1. When we try to look at the back of it now, and Chad help walk us through some of this stuff.
Well, where we stand right now is we've succeeded in completing the DB1 district, and now it's time to take on its companion, its sister, or I should say its big brother, the power district behind it, the one where where we have more potential for larger business development. And we had talked a little bit about it in the past. But right now, we need to really go over the issue of what's our complement of uses that we're going to put in there. Quite frankly, I've got so many things on signs in there. I can't even find my DB2. So everybody have their DB2 in their notebooks?
What section is it?
7.0. It starts at 7.3.
Yeah, 7.3.
Downtown Business District 2. It's in your 7.0 tab, section 7.
I went from 7.25 sign to 7.34 off the parking.
Yeah, 7.2.1.
7.3.
7.3.
It's like a
DB
three-page
District
section.
2.
Found it? It's right at the end of DB1, so it might be.
I only have the one page 7.34.
And 7.31.
Well, How about if I go make
Is
photocopies?
7, I got
Can we do
2
that?
pages.
Okay.
You've got 2 pages.
I got
We've
3
got
pages.
10 pages.
It's not that much, guys, we didn't get that far into it.
It's just these 3 pages.
Yeah, that's okay.
Permanent.
So you can be one including the funds all work.
60.
I'm all set, 7.3,
Yeah.
this table.
September 6th, 2012 is the date on it, Ann?
Yep.
I got it.
Is that in your binder?
Yes?
Yeah, but he was one of the last ones, so probably got it.
No, you guys, you went over this, somebody's all written
Yeah,
out.
we got some one.
We all called each other and
We all-
agreed to pull them out.
You guys did, you threw them all out.
One page sheet. It's about that.
Yeah, all of us have the 1 page, so. Okay, we're looking for 7.3.
3.4.
Oh, we're looking for 1.
Ann's gonna make copies of it, so none of this.
Okay. With all of the board here, while we're waiting for those, do we want to just defer this for a minute until we get those papers and go on to the planner's report and get that out of the way?
Oh,
Sure.
okay.
Is the board in
sure.
agreement with that? That
Yes.
was a lot of order with
Good
that?
time.
Okay,
Okay, I have nothing
okay.
to, no, that's not true.
That's
Yeah, I wish it was. A couple things to report on. Number one, the status of our lawsuit. We had submitted all of our rebuttals and our arguments to the Superior Court regarding the pending lawsuit right now, and we were waiting for a scheduled court date in which we will make our arguments. The judge is now looking at our arguments, so that's all been submitted. That's item number 1 on the board. Item number 2. The Economic Development Committee has worked on the townhouse district. Bob was here at the public hearing, and a public hearing or a neighborhood workshop. That was much better attended than the last one. And what was interesting in it is the EDC basically did the presentation on that proposed district. And I would say it was a mixed review. There were those who, members of the board who actually probably were very favorable and were advocates of it, and they found allies among the public. However, there was also concern expressed by other attendees regarding the intensity of uses, the scale, and secondary impacts of converting that district into more of a business district. One of the concerns was traffic that would be generated by destination businesses that would be going into that particular district. Noise and change of character is a major concern as well. To this effect, thank you. To this effect, the EDC basically charged me to start examining some of those issues, taking a harder look at the complement of uses down in that district, and also to look at a stronger design standard than what they had really originally been thinking about. A design standard that would be a lot more restrictive, quite frankly. It would be very residential oriented, probably in keeping with some of the design characteristics of some of the historic structures in that area, and the potential of that kind of image. So that was the charge they gave to me. There were certain things that did not go over well, like the concept of parking, having parking lots in that area for overflow traffic and transportation sources that you actually basically run transports into and out of Kennebunkport. Not surprisingly, it wasn't really amenable to the idea of being used as a parking lot, so that didn't go out well, so they have to reconsider that. But they're still debating some of the uses, but their intent is to provide the board with their recommendations in the next 2 months. Hopefully. They've also, we had the EDC also hosted the consultant, Chesapeake Group, who came up at the beginning of this month and conducted another series of basically interviews with stakeholders and another focus group. Focus group was with an interesting group. It was with a group of citizens who had lived in the town for 5 years or less. So it was a perception by people who had time to really solidify a lot of opinions about Arundel, and they gave some interesting insights to him about why they moved here and what the perception of the town was and what their desires were. And I'm being premature in the report, but Howard is basically, because he hasn't given us his results, and we still have to do the survey. By the way, there's a survey, an online survey. I trust the planning board will all go online and partake of that. If you haven't, do it, please, because it's an attitudinal survey. It's very important that you do it. It's also a user survey and an activity survey. You all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's on that. Which one fires? Okay, I can take it.
Heat it up and cook it.
So the thing that was very interesting, some of the findings we're finding out is there is broad support for what we're doing, not for what we're doing, for the concept we're pursuing in the DB district. Basically, the idea of a central area that's an activity area. It's not as well defined as we're defining it, but we're not barking at the wrong tree with what we're doing in the DB district. We're barking at the right tree. He's giving me at least those results. They're not scientific, but he says that's the perception I'm getting from folks. I'm getting a very strong indication that the town needs an identity, wants an identity, and wants to have a physical geographical area that can call the center of the community. And we will be pursuing, following up what that is and where they want to go with that with subsequent surveys and focus groups. And there will be a town meeting, if you will, to discuss this issue coming up in probably June or July. So that's where we stand on that. In terms of other activities, we are seeing an upturn in building permit activity. And I still have 2 applications that I have not received yet that are pending. One would be, of course, for the Arundel Historical Society, and another one for a potential subdivision. So, what I think is happening right now is we're seeing some of the excess demand. There is increasing demand for residential property, and the excess lots are being gobbled up right now. And as they disappear, we're going to see more and more demand for the creation of new lots. So I think we're going to be seeing some renewed activity in the subdivision end. I also should say that the exemption that you put in under 77B last year for exemptions for existing private ways continues to be taken advantage of by the residents of this town as you intended. We just did another one on West Lane yesterday, and that's the first one that we've done in which there will be significant improvements to that private way in order to get the building out that they're looking for.
Where's West Lane?
West Lane is down off of Limerick Road, where Whitney West crosses. That whole road is West Lane. And so that, we just approved that yesterday. We also have one coming up on Curtis Road, which engineering has been completed on that as well. And by the way, our friends over on, speaking of Curtis Road, at the next meeting, I would anticipate, the next meeting will probably be in May. That won't be the next meeting. May or June. They're not really moving very quickly right now because they're going to wait for the ground to dry up. But the logging outfit that wanted to log in Curtis Road has secured all their easements and yes, they have.
Oh, wonderful.
So they'll be coming in for their final approval on that cut. They have to make some, apparently they're going to be making some improvements out there to facilitate the long entrance at egress. And they're coming in through down the road. So there's going to want to look at that. It's a very short-term impact. But they will be making a presentation to you as to the extent of what improvements they're going to make and what impacts there are on some capital. So I anticipate that in May, beginning of June. We have no enforcement actions going on right now, aside from the suit. And no outstanding issues except for the issues over the zone.
What about Kate's?
Okay, yeah, thank you, Mark. Kate's Butter, that was one of the things, Kate's Butter is moving along at a fairly substantial clip, as you probably saw. They, their intent is they need to get this thing done by July. They need to get it piped in and ready by September. The contract's built. I had a meeting with Dan and Chris about a week and a half ago. It's 2 weeks. Introduced him to Howard, and Howard spent 2 hours with him. Howard being from Chesapeake. It was a very productive meeting. They're really fired up on the Arundel. They're fired to get their project up and running. They're fired up to do a lot of different things that they want to do. They want to expand their product line once they get in. So Kate's their intent is to be operational, fully operational before the end of the year. By the way, since I've been out there, I've also inspected the site. I've gone around to both the detention pond and the stormwater retention and quality pond and the fire pond. And I'll tell you, it's all those facilities are working well at sea. And so forth. They have to make more site improvements. Of course, they'll do that once they complete the construction. But they're on schedule to get this done and get operational this year.
What about the gate railings?
Gabriel.
The answer is still sitting on the ground.
All those are supposed to go back up and see.
Yeah, I think they're left.
Okay, I haven't been on this one.
And have you turned off the recorder when you left?
No.
Oh, okay, because I had taken things out of the board and taken.
Yeah, yeah. Planner's business.
Made cryptic little notes for the indication.
I got it. I'll listen to the recording.
Okay. So it was that then?
Yes.
So we'll move back to item 2, downtown business district, to discussion. And Ted, if you will, start the
All
work.
right, now we've got all clean pages here. Essentially, what we were looking at in downtown business district 2 is we were looking at things we didn't want. And we're talking about things we want because we are dealing with omitted uses approach here. But we wanted to go over a number of things and make sure that we have everything that we were looking for. We did not put, if you notice on here, we do not have any kind of square footage minimums or maximums. Whereas we have a maximum building size of 20,000 in DB1, there are no restrictions in the DB2. So you could have 100,000 square foot distribution center there in the DB2.
Okay.
I guess the question for the board is, any issues with that?
Depends on the lot size.
Pardon?
Depends on the lot.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
It does with any property. But yes, if you have enough land, you can put it on the denny.
One question just to ask along the way too. Water. If you're going off Route 1, you have to have public water for businesses or anything else, per se, within 1,000 feet. So are you going to have that also? So we have an expansion of fire protection.
Okay, but is that going to be in the downtown business district 2 ordinance, or is
Is that a
It's part of
performance
it.
standard you want, or?
I mean, just so it's up front right off the bat. It's like how we run in along the way, if somebody's not quite 1,000 feet, they don't need to put a fire lane, adequate, water.
Yeah.
So if it's already there,
Wouldn't that be better suited to have that in the site plan review section than necessarily in this section?
I'm just throwing it out. I mean, I'm not trying to tell you where to put it, but I mean, as if we don't note it as something that has to be there, it can be sidestepped and forgotten about.
Well, that's a good point, Marty. Let's just take a real quick, if you took a quick look, section 9.8. Is it 9.8 still? No, it's not. It's section 12. It's gonna be section 12. Bless you. Okay, we're moving section 12, which is site plan review. Which really isn't much different than the current site plan review. I believe one of the standards that we have in here. No, we don't have a requirement of fire, but we do have a requirement for, under 1210.3, we have the requirement that the proposed project does not unreasonably impact public safety and fire protection, and will not create a financial burden for the town of Arundel and create vision of emergency services and law enforcement to the project site and neighborhood. It's pretty open-ended there. It sounds like that, did you find that section? Okay. You'll find it on page 150, section 12 in your book.
Yeah.
It's under, it should be 12.9. Is that it? Whoa!
Section 13 is going to be the fire ordinance.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It's not in the table of contents as such, but.
Well, no, this fire ordinance was going to be a standalone.
Right, standalone, so it won't be.
It won't be in the zone.
No, well, that's-
But it should be page 150.
I see it.
Well, what?
150?
12:10.
12.10.3.
Yeah.
Works for me.
Doesn't,
Go to section 12.
It doesn't specify a specific standard, Mike, but what it does do is it says you shall provide adequate fire protection.
but what I'm going at is, all right, you have somebody come in, and yeah, they don't go 1,000 feet. Okay? We'll just use that as an example. They're not going 1,000 feet. Okay, they're 999 feet. So they're just taking care of them for themselves. Now, if somebody else comes back, you still have to come back and put in, after 1,000 feet, what we ran along Log Cabin Road, where the water line had to be extended, but we still don't have a fire hydrant there. So I'm saying is, if you have knowledge, it can be planned instead of sidestepping along the way, which we've had that happen in the past,
Yeah.
along in the VI district. That's why I'm saying that now, so if it's there instead of not there.
Well, you know, I think,
It's like turning on your private way, if you turn on and have, okay, it only has to be so much wide, and after 3 or more lots, it has to be this way. So if you turn on, it's known, it's not something that's coming up at later.
I understand that. My only question is, so you want to specify what the fire protection requirements are going to be for every project before it starts? I'm not sure I can do that.
What I'm saying is, somewhere along the way, as a stipulation, okay, that within 1,000 feet of you going from Route 1, There will be a fire hydrant.
Where's the 1,000-foot, where's that number coming from? Why is that the magic number?
Because that's been what has been established along the crescent over the past, within 1,000 feet. If it wasn't within 1,000 feet,
Okay, but where's the 1,000 feet coming from? Is that just past, that's just?
I think that,
That's just best practice, is that what it is?
came from the fire department, other proposals, that the ideal location of fire hydrants is basically
1,000 feet.
at about 1,000 feet because of runs and hose or something.
Yeah.
What I'm afraid we're doing though is we're getting into the weeds right now before looking at the whole,
Yeah, no, and
General.
I think what he wants to do is just capture that,
yeah.
because
Keep
we're
in mind.
also losing all of the cistern water and all of the other things that we currently have in our current fire line. So we probably want to review that and make sure that that's consistent. So,
Okay, I'll remind you of two things. Number one, we don't have the fire ordinance. And the only place that we, except for this change in the site plan, the only place where this board exercises any authority over the size of water supply is in subdivision. In subdivision. So, to put it in zoning ordinance, okay, but I think I would want the fire chief to be directly involved in that. I'm not prepared to
yeah, no,
second guess
I'm in
it.
agreement.
And look at that 1,000-foot policy.
I'm sorry?
Rich worked on something.
Yeah, and that's gone nowhere, and that needs to be taken up and running again, because that would cover,
All of these.
that would cover all of it. It would also, Marty, cover people who aren't governed by us, by our projects, people who do things incrementally, who do not have to go to site plan. I mean, it's gonna be tough now for any non-residential project not to eventually come to site plan for something or other, but it does happen. But I think it really needs to be done through the zone, through the fire ordinance. That needs to be done, number one, because it applies townwide. Number two, it's a standard that's specific to Arundel. And I think that Rich's ordinance, as I recall, really focused on providing a user fee, basically a user fee for reconstruction. It did not specify requirements, on-site requirements. It really said you'll pay a user fee for making improvements to the fire protection systems in the town. It didn't really make any specifications. And that's why it hasn't gone anywhere, is because that needs to go to the next step.
Are you comfortable that's where we're going to look at it?
as long as it doesn't get backstepped.
I don't think you'll let it.
I'm counting on not letting it.
In looking at all of the usage that we've described here,
Yes.
in it, I tried to go through and match to see if we were, it said we were going to allow everything that was in DB1.
Right. Are we missing something?
Huh?
Are we missing something?
Well, I don't know, because it's not in the same word.
I know, I did
I tried to go
myself
back and forth.
I'm sorry.
But also what came to mind, what isn't here, we have other areas of town designated for certain things, like out at the end of Mountain Road, where we were gonna do some affordable housing or senior housing or those sorts of projects. Why would they not be suitable for this? Because we need a
Assisted
business
living and
district,
nursing
affordable
homes.
housing.
Okay, which specifically we're talking about, what, convalescent homes, hospitals, what?
Well, yeah, kind of like what they had proposed here on Limerick Road at the golf course.
I mean,
Morris,
55 and older?
Morris, huh?
55 and over.
Yeah, 65 and over senior. I mean, that's a business, it is a business. It seems like it would bring, it just seemed like it would bring people to the area where they go to the business, that's all. I mean, doesn't seem to be received, so I don't care.
Wait a minute, don't give up that easily.
It's a good
It's a good thing.
line of thought here.
you know, technically, the current economy has changed some of the economic dynamics of it. But traditionally, retirement or age-restricted communities, especially in 55 range, 55 and older range, those communities are actually net revenue enhancers for a community. They do two things. Number one, they put little strain on emergency services, and those are services they do use, which is usually medical, is actually paid for by the insurance companies, and compensates the town. Number two, they provide a new group with disposable income because they aren't putting kids through school. Usually they're empty nesters. That's the demographic, traditional demographic. So they're usually a positive cash flow revenue source.
We have Atria, kind of,
Those are congregate care facilities.
I'm sorry?
Those are congregate care facilities.
Yeah, I mean, they're businesses that bring people into, right? But aren't they not business?
Yeah, those are actually medical facilities.
Oh, so that's why you want to spend a medical facility?
They don't have to be. I can go
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah, they did. Well, wait a minute, you're confusing two things here. A 55 and older community is residential with no medical at all.
Right, right.
Congregate care, like the atrium is a congregate care facility. It has cottages for independent living, and then it has the main building, which has assisted living. So it's a vertically integrated
Yeah.
facility.
Yeah, they have gradual steps. You're
Exactly.
totally independent, you need a little bit of care, now you need more, but more.
Not all of them.
Not all of them are, but
Honeyman Commons is a perfect one.
Huntington Commons is another great one.
Yeah.
I mean, get one or two of those in there, not only do you have nice business, good taxes, but you also have people to go to these businesses. They want to come in.
yeah, although as they get older, their spending patterns changes dramatically, and they do not produce the same revenue source that the 55s do. The 55 to 65 cohort is the one that you really want the most of.
Bob
Start
Bernard,
with-
okay, 55 and older,
I want them all.
Well, you know, that, right now,
a little younger and I have them when they're older.
well, the question then is,
I mean, these are in the back of the business, this is DB2, this is behind that business front that we want. And we're going to allow all sorts of different things back there, I just thought it would be a good fit.
okay, congregate care facility, is that good for you?
What do you call it?
Congregate care facilities.
You said that would be like your nursing homes.
No, congregate care would, I'll get a definition that shows that it's a little bit more than that. That includes the cottage living, that progresses all the way to,
Honeyman Commons idea.
yeah, but that's what that's called. That facility, the term, the actual land use term for that is congregate care facility. And it was the rage, 15 years ago. It's died down a lot. So it's,
Well,
Would that
actually,
fall
it's
under
got more
medical
popular.
facility, or
no,
would it
I know,
be
you should have it separate one. You could stretch it into medical facility, but our definition of medical facility doesn't specifically say congregate care, so I think I would. And it's also actually a different animal than a convalescent home,
Yeah.
which a medical facility falls
But
into.
it's like Seal Harbor.
Okay.
So you
So
add
we
more
have
to it?
found
Yeah.
five things that
I assume, is that the board's desire to add that? Now, Bob, did you also want to add, I mean, you know, you bring up a really good point from the standpoint of, okay, if we're going to try to make this more pedestrian friendly and so forth, let's have some people who live there who will become pedestrians.
Yeah.
So the issue is, what do we want for residential in there? We say right now, we have residential, we have single family, two family, and multi. Well, we didn't, the multifamily was question mark.
Yeah.
We never made a decision on multifamily. But I guess the question should be, would you like to make age-restricted communities as one of the uses in there?
I think all of those kind of facilities would be appropriate there. I mean, they're all businesses, they all have.
Well, that's not a business, but that's an age-restricted community basically is a planned community that has that is restricted, the occupants are restricted to 55 and over.
So it's like
We
Shady
have to
Oaks.
designate areas that are restricted.
It's like Shady Oaks.
We do, by the state.
No,
Don't we have a requirement to identify certain ones?
No, we are not required to do that. What we're required to have is mobile home park. We're required to have a mobile home park district.
Well, how does the other board members
Yes.
feel about that?
So we had,
Let's see how.
we had to have
We were
something in
told-
the past because that's gonna pertain to our building permit requirements.
I think you're referring to the Dutch Dome when they proposed to put in an age restricted community.
Yeah, we were considering allowing them to be exempt from the.
The board was asked to do that. It was low-income housing that we had to provide.
We had to provide low-income housing, we did that down that end of Mountain Road, right? Wasn't that here or somewhere?
I don't remember where we did that.
I don't remember it.
When we redid our growth ordinance, the state made us put something in to make sure that we had X amount percentages for low income. But there was nothing about 55 and over. I know that people were asking us to make them exempt.
They were claiming that
Because
because of
building
school
permits.
use,
Right.
then cost it.
Yeah, the
Don't
building
have that
permits.
ordinance written. I do. I didn't bring that with me.
So right now, the only residents that are allowed is subordinate to the business on the side. So
But you see,
if it's convalescent, I see that as a business.
It's ordinance,
That's not medical facility. But if it's 55 and older,
with steps, that's what he's saying, with steps.
On a
but
55
Bob is also talking about just, I think you are.
Well, Bob, let me ask you this, okay, Shady Oaks, okay,
Yeah.
where they turn out, it's a trailer park, per se, but he has a specific section of it for 55 and older.
And he gets some credit
You
somewhere.
know, but I'm just saying, are we speaking of something of that nature, or are we speaking of, I'm only asking for ideas, not, I mean,
I'm thinking more of the facilities that are already on Route 1, just to our north. You can go to Gorham House, is another one, you know. There's a lot of things. They're beautiful, they're apartments, the people go in to live, they're independent, they don't want their big houses anymore. Everybody is downsizing now.
yeah,
Everybody is downsizing.
Honeywood
So they
Commons.
so you get the small apartments. Well, guess what? You get in there when you're 55, 60, 60. When you're 75, if suddenly you need a medication aid, they have that capability on site. They can come and make sure you get your medicine. And then if you happen to get a little bit more sicker, they have a little bit
They have the alignment.
Where do we draw the line though?
I don't know.
When is it called a condo development versus?
Well, a condo development, I think, would be what was proposed in Dutch Homes. If that was going to be a 55-year-old community.
Yeah, no medical.
No medical facilities. no.
Correct, so if we had something against this, would we require that you have a medical facility?
No.
Otherwise, what would make it not just a condo?
Why would you?
Classified, it's classified as.
Elder care, then would be
But-
the
but
medical
it's
services.
Not open, no, because under Honeywood Commons, okay, when you live in the apartments, okay, you do not necessarily have, medical, but they turn and serve, the ability to serve food and stable and everything
Five
else.
different packages, you're right. So
There's a whole bunch of different
That's
Correct.
That's not a condo operation like we were proposing for Dutch Homes. And I don't think that should be in the business district. That's strictly residential.
Yeah, it just happens to be older people there.
That's it.
But there's not, everyone's on their own.
Yeah.
They're not really relying on the services.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. What you were referring to is section C, and I apologize, I didn't know this with me. These are exemptions to the residential growth ordinance that was revised as of 2008. And exemption 14C basically says this ordinance shall not apply to up to 4 units of affordable housing in any calendar year period, so long as the developer builder implements a plan to ensure that the housing units remain affordable in perpetuity.
The plan for maintaining affordability shall be submitted and approved by the Arundel Board of Selectmen, and if the units are reviewed by the Arundel Planning Board, by the planning board as well.
We've seen too much of that.
No. For purposes of this ordinance, affordable housing shall mean affordable housing as defined by 30A MRSA, section 5002, subsection 2, and any pertinent NISHA regulations. Number 4, in the first sentence of this subsection, shall automatically be replaced annually with the whole number that is greater than 10% of the number of permits for new residential dwellings set by this ordinance for the current year.
That was mandated by
Second
the state.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was by the state. They did that.
That 10%, that's because we're going by NISHA standards. And essentially it's saying that 10% of the number of permits is what that number 4 shall be. So if we had what?
40.
We always, based on 40, and I think last year we did 20.
Doesn't that cause for a new formula? We base it on the last 3 years or
Yeah,
something?
right.
This, it really doesn't matter. This is.
It's
this
still
is
gonna
more
be 10%
variable.
though.
It's 10% of whatever the building permits were for the previous years. So it's independent of that formula. This year, I believe this June, we're gonna have to come back and take another look at the, because I think we're required to do it every 2 or 3 years. 3 years. 3 years. Is it 2?
Doesn't matter.
Well, it does, because if we don't do it.
If you're looking at it, and that's what I mean.
I'll take a look at that.
You're gonna look at it.
Because I think we did it back in 2011, I think.
But there's all, this was more of a bigger thought. I mean, there's those sorts of facilities. When I was going down, I went into some of these places where you went into, they were kind of residential areas with houses. But then guess what? They had, and this was all in the same development, they had movie theaters, they had all of your shops and coffee shops, and it was all part of that one build. I mean, they had the plans of where they were going with it, and this is what it was going to eventually. So I guess in my mind, what I'm saying, and the way that we've written this, we said as long as it's subservient to the business, I mean, if the business is something, if there's a lot of business that comes with it, why would we not want to do that?
Well, we don't have any restriction on residential in this district.
Yeah, we have a lot, only one family, two family question, not even multi-family.
Well,
Provide-
that's only,
Operating a business.
23, provide
Oh, yeah, we
residents.
did.
Yeah.
well, remember, we haven't approved this yet, guys.
No,
No,
so we need to think about that.
Yeah. The question that you have to think about, I mean, that's taken right out of, you know, the BI district, obviously. And the issue there is, what do you want for residential in that area? I mean, we actually have more problems with residential chewing up what available land in the DB1 and DB2 district than we do in the BI district. And we have more potential for that in those districts. Because if you recall, if you go back through some of the files, I'll look back here, especially around Old Post Road, and I'll see lots of developments for subdivisions that were supposed to go way in the back, that never came about. And some that have actually gone backwards and coalesced and become raw land again.
Yeah, but again, a subdivision is all resident.
Right.
I guess my point being, if there was a planned residential area with a planned, a lot of businesses area, couldn't the residential, I mean, as long as you had something comparable in business, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, Bob, that's the big dilemma. That's where we got the approval tonight, no
Yeah,
problem.
exactly.
Imagine if there were residents next door to Rundle Machine, they might have shown up and said, they cause noise, there's trucks there all night, and, you know, if the resident's right next to it, then there's gonna be conflicts. And
I don't know, these
because
places
there's
are
no
beautiful.
residents around, it was a no-brainer. You know, it was slim dunk. So they don't always mix well together, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're right, Tom.
And this 23, where it says residential, single family, to Bob's point, I mean, that could be a subdivision that goes in there. Right. You could have a subdivision that go in a DB2 somewhere, and then right next to it will be high intensity, well, you don't want high intensity, but
A factory or some
Manufacturing.
manufacturing.
I mean, that's the way this is written.
Yeah.
And it should be,
So
as
what
long
should-
as it's, as long as there's a business component with it, I don't have a problem with it. But to your point, you don't want this loaded with residents.
No, we don't.
Unless we can bring in a lot of business.
Well, you know, guys, I'm gonna show some frustration here. Because I wrote you a PUD ordinance to deal with exactly this issue,
I have it right here.
and you guys didn't wanna do it. You're telling me you want a PUD kind of approach to residential and business in here again.
I know, he does.
I'm gonna go walk out and let you guys, we're gonna
I wanna
leave one
see
night
it.
here and you guys, whoever wins.
I don't wanna see them mixed.
No.
Okay.
I'm against any residential in
And the VTV too.
Then we need to take it out of.
It's- I would accept the residential as long as it's subordinate to operating.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, question,
But I would, be done in a second.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Where it says two-family, multifamily, what kind of home subordinate to a business would have multi?
That's why there was a big question mark there.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was in favor of
Although I have seen
That could be what Bob was talking about. Maybe what,
3 apartments over.
Yeah,
over on the
I
plan.
think it all depends on the plan that comes in.
Okay, if you have a
where the
warehouse.
CEO that was going.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Although I don't think that we're gonna be getting a lot of that,
I don't think so.
because we don't have views. Water views will do.
Well, how about a big cinema or something?
We're not gonna get a lot of residents.
I'm sorry?
It's recreational.
we have theaters.
Movie
There's
theaters.
right here.
You got theaters.
That makes
Now,
it
what do
right.
you
Theater, that's, we get back to our.
Can I have my turn?
Through the chair.
Go ahead, sir.
What do you call a recreational facility? You call it campground or not?
No, campground separate.
Read your definition, you should have them in front of you.
I'm looking at it, it's a campground, that's why I asked.
Okay, a theater, by our definition, is a facility for the production of live performance. That is-
Marty,
Well, no, we gotta put
campgrounds are on the
49
next
centers
page.
and
It's under conditional use.
I'm sorry, what?
playhouses. You got performing arts centers and playhouses.
Yeah, those are theaters.
Yeah, it's the one with the chart.
Yeah, I'm talking about the,
I'm trying to just guide Marty, that's all.
I'm talking about like a cinematic.
Page
Okay.
It's conditional use on the next page.
The next page, conditional use.
732.
Will I just print it for you?
Movie theater.
Right here, 732.
Why is that conditional?
use. Right there, at the very top.
Okay.
Movie theaters.
Okay, and I guess I hit the term theater because we have a definition of theater,
Yes.
which is live performance.
Yes.
The playhouse.
See, so that just needs,
Well,
That would be like your other
I'm
playhouse.
talking about a cinemagic or,
Yeah, that's a movie
Not-
theater.
That's a movie theater.
okay, not a theater, but a movie
Movie.
theater. Okay. All right, if everybody comfortable with that?
What
Movie
about,
theater?
what about a theater? Is that
Playhouse.
19, Performing Arts Center and Playhouse?
You got, no, if you go to the next page on the conditional use, we got movie theaters.
So the theater is
The theater-
for live performances.
Live performance would be 19.
Right.
Right.
And then the conditional use is for a
So,
cinematic.
but-
See, I would think it would be reversed. I think we want to bring in a cinematic. Something huge, something big, a lot of money, a lot of revenue for the town, and then the
How's
performance.
that a lot of revenue for the town?
Huh?
The big building.
Okay.
Huge.
Not much. It's an empty building.
But we tax on.
What, you charge for that? No.
Square footage.
No, you get all the personal property tax on the, each seat and everything else.
And popcorn, that's it, popcorn.
That's a little inventory.
Digital equipment, you
Yeah.
know, all that stuff
Yeah, all
is
the
expensive
inventory.
stuff.
No, it's there. The reason why we put it as a conditional use is probably pretty much for traffic issues. Because remember, one thing movie theaters do is they have a burst of traffic. What they do is they have, it would be no different than having a manufacturing facility that has shifts. And the shift comes on, 3 o'clock shift, or, the second shift comes up and, whoa!
You're probably gonna need a stoplight then too.
Probably will,
Okay.
probably will.
So,
So
Now,
conditional use is good.
But we can talk about that. Well, should we go through?
yeah, when it comes to
Yeah. Tom has identified some that are missing, that we had identified in the DB1. I
Okay,
think as a board, we've said anything in the DB1 should be there, and then we look at some other ones. So I'm not sure we got an answer to the congregate housing, but let's get a definition of what that might be, and we can deal with that later.
Why don't we just point out the ones we're missing that should be on here? I'll just do the numbers. Number 11, lodging in bed and breakfast.
Lodging center?
That's not on
Yeah,
there.
it is.
Or just lodge, oh, okay, I was looking at bed and breakfast in motels, so that would all be that.
It's all lodging.
Okay, scratch that.
How about big hotels?
That's lodging.
That's lodging.
Okay. Okay, 17,
Lodging is everybody.
17 commercial schools, is that on there?
No,
Let's
that's
see that.
Commercial schools is not, and that is
Oh, no?
something Anna actually pointed out to me.
college or.
Educational,
Educational.
schools.
So we
All
not
schools.
want that?
No, we-
Why wouldn't we want schools?
That'd be great.
Yes, we got it number
That would
27.
bring people.
Yes, we have 27, we have schools.
Okay, so there'd be no distinction between public and elementary schools and
All schools.
all schools? Okay, so I'm striking out so far. Let's see how, if I do any better.
You're doing great. No, you're doing great. See, the problem is, Tom, I put this in sort.
Right, alphabetical.
And so it all went
Which makes sense.
alphabetically, and it just, and it doesn't jive with the other one.
Okay.
And maybe if I make it jive with the other one,
Then it
it
wouldn't
would
have
cause
it.
confusion.
Maybe this one will work. This is number 22, drive-through facilities. I think that's for eating establishments,
Like a
right?
restaurant.
Well,
banks.
banks.
Oh, banks too.
Yeah.
Do we have to have something specific to drive-through facilities?
We do because there is a distinction in land use between, a drive-through facility is sort of an accessory use to
Okay.
a primary use.
Yeah.
Even though it might be the primary use. You know,
Yeah,
McDonald's is more of a drive-through than it is a sitting
Restaurant,
room.
yeah.
That's not bad, that's a bad
Dunkin'
example.
Donuts is definitely.
Have you seen
No,
those,
that's not true.
have you seen those convenience stores and liquor stores and beer stores where you drive in one end and they load you right up with your beer or your
Load you up with liquor.
and you drive right out the back?
Where are you vacation?
I think.
What about your drugstore?
Those kind of things are neater, no, that would be a drive, they are, they're a drive-through.
Drugstore.
Place your
Well,
order,
let me
you
just
can
go
come
through
out
this.
with what's in your car.
I mean, that's gonna.
The drive, so since drive-through is specifically included here, should it be?
Yes, it
Not
should
being
be.
here means omitted, so.
It should be.
Okay.
What about your
The
drugstore?
question is there any limitation to that? Because, you know, you wanna talk about driving, if you've ever been to Hancock Lumber, you guys don't have Hancock very much down here. But, you have one in Kansas, is it a drive-through? Because they have, that's in Wyndham and that's in Casco, you basically, you drive up to the facility, you drive into the building,
Yeah.
and they'll load you up right there,
And they
and you
have
drive
Diamond.
back out.
You got Diamond?
Diamond and Bedford does that.
That's
No, Diamond right there in Kmart.
That's a good.
Okay, let me go, I have two more.
That's part of the
What
drive.
about?
Number 24, recording studios, radio and TV stations.
What is
Are
that?
they- It's on DB1, but I don't see it on DB2.
It isn't.
Recording studio.
Recording, yeah, number 24.
Where would your drugstores be?
Retail.
Retail.
But how about if you have a drive-through?
Drive-through facilities.
One more, then it's probably already included, but maybe not. 25, the next page on DB1 is catering and food preparation. And I don't know if that is restaurants or,
Catering is different than, food preparation and catering is different. Okay, you got me, Tom.
How about banks?
Well, drive-through.
well, then we get into what else should be included. So as far as the ones that are on DB1 list, so,
Wait, I wanna get these down.
I'm gonna get banks.
So you had, before we get to banks,
yeah,
I've already forgotten what you said, so say it again.
Catering.
Catering, thank you.
catering, yeah, catering and food prep.
Really, you guys really ought to make sure that you have some definitions on these.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some of these you do, some of them you don't, but
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've
we
been
just
getting
wanted to get-
more defined.
before you allow it, you need to make sure you define what it is.
Beyond those uses, there's also, I question the first two or three, all legally existing businesses and all that. We're gonna include that language in there?
I don't think there's anything that
Nothing
exists
that-
that's not going to be permitted in here.
Okay, so maybe it won't be, okay.
Just,
You notice we have automobile, watercraft, and recreational vehicle sales.
Yeah, so.
And that was really the issue, and I can't think of, the only other thing that I would say that we don't have in here, is churches. No, we do, never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Hey, Tom?
Yeah, wait a minute.
What's the revision date on your
Yeah, 'cause I'm not looking
7,
at the same thing.
2-1?
DB1 one, I have March 28th. You guys
What year?
have. 2013.
2013.
Yeah, what's your
That's
date?
September 6th.
I have September 6th.
No, I'm looking at the DB1.
Oh, no, look at your, what's your DB2?
The DB2, I have,
September
September
6th.
6th. Yeah.
2012.
That'd be, and just give it.
Oh,
Oh, they should all be the same. Greg, you had the only one that was different than us.
I was talking about the
DB1?
One,
One.
my most recent DB1, it just has section 7 business districts in the top right.
But the permitted uses were
That was the last, and then you
October 4th, 2012.
yeah, I revised from your notes of 4/4.
right, and what,
What
the
do
number
you have?
24 that Tom was talking about isn't on the.
I have October 4th, 2012 of the permitted uses.
I got October
Why is
11th.
that?
I didn't do nothing. I have all of them.
So-
From before.
The DB1, I have March 28th.
It's 4/4. It should have been a 4/4.
I'll throw you
Then I
one.
don't have the last.
Marty, go ahead.
What do you have, March 28th?
We don't
I have
have,
October 11th.
2012?
Yeah, we all have it. See, that's what I said. And sort of keep up to date with it.
You know, I think at some point, what we're gonna have to do is take everything that we've done
Trash
and
Well, the
throw it out
problem
and
was-
just have one
I'll tell you
version.
what the problem was.
Because I mean, look at my book, I don't have any more room in my book from all
The
that.
revisions that we were doing, so much revisions on signs,
Yeah.
those are the one, he was copying just those sections regarding signage and street trees and all that, and so I think that we're using the original, like the permitted uses.
Yeah, so maybe we
And a lot
should
of-
just get all new DB1.
Whole new DB1 section.
And
And a lot of the changes were just handed out without being three-hole punch, so you might not have put it into.
Exactly.
Right, yeah,
Paper
that
clip
would-
to the side and
Yeah.
something else, yeah.
Yeah,
Because I just three-hole punch a bunch of mine over here.
because
Okay.
like mine
Yeah.
says yard sale drive-through, so.
Marty, you had another item?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been refined.
How about- We don't have anything in here for aviation.
No, only yard sales, they have
Aviation.
drive-through for the airport?
No, let's say if you for sales or anything else, you have somebody who wanted to turn and be able to service helicopters or anything else. I mean, that might be stretching it, but you do have an airport not too far from here.
Yeah, that's what it should say,
Or a small manufacturer. I mean, I
We
think
allow
nothing.
Keep going, keep
I
We
going.
allow
Aviation.
what we allow low impact manufacturing.
So you're right. Down low.
So,
Automobile, watercraft, recreation, vehicle sales. It doesn't say anything about,
oh, selling airplanes?
Bring it to the table,
it
Ted.
say if you get somebody who wants to sell helicopters.
Nowadays, it's
They're gonna
going
get
to
it for the service.
Right, or you turn out, they can be trucked in.
That's our issue.
I mean, they come on a flatbed, I can fit a helicopter with both of them, planning department.
Three-hole punch, the latest one, this one here, make sure it's in your book.
Oh, I already did put holes. Well, that'd been good.
Can I borrow that? When he comes that way?
Absolutely, everybody go around, make sure you get it in there.
Which one are we gonna get in there?
The one he just
The
had.
one I gave you, the
just
one I
gave us
photocopied
tonight.
and gave
The
you.
September 6th, 2012 DB2 district. So we all have the same one, that's where we're gonna start.
3 pages long.
And you're gonna get rid of everything else that's in your book. And once I send you the brand new, or the latest version, I thought I already did, but I
latest and greatest.
latest
No, I
and
sent
greatest
it to you
chapter,
for that item.
DB1, and we'll put final on it. And everything else, you know,
So you
trash.
make a new DB1 for us, because I think mine's,
Yeah.
okay.
I will put final in the corner, okay? And that, check it against
Change.
yours to make sure that there's nothing that hasn't changed.
Subject to change.
No,
No.
no, never again.
Okay, say never.
Highway.
Would you consider an airplane or a helicopter to be a recreational vehicle, say?
No.
Like, what would be the difference between that and a Jeep or a four-wheeler?
Well, it's, It's an aircraft.
Usually, no, I know, but they are for recreation.
You can rent
I
them.
don't know anybody who's just, let's take a Sunday drive in the copter.
Yeah,
A lot of people
do it
do.
all the time.
I mean,
Well,
back in
Vegas.
George Jetson's day, yeah.
Hey.
Not these
Think about
days.
it, though.
No.
You might do a helicopter tour of it.
Hey, the sightseeing, hey, if you wanted to fly up and down the coast,
Yeah.
turn on sightseeing. I mean,
Somebody might
Yeah,
have an
FAA.
ultralight
Yeah,
shop.
that-
An ultralight shop?
Yeah, services ultralights or something.
You just have like a helicopter.
Can't we say that's retail?
no, you
What is
you
it?
said,
Sale of goods.
no, because you have it listed here.
Place you can
Automobile,
jump on a helicopter and take a-
Watercraft and recreation.
But you need a legal
If it's not in
airport
there,
to do that.
it's not allowed.
You need FAA approval.
Oh, wow.
Hey, if it's not, how many times
Not
have
for
we been told if
ultralights,
it's not in
Made
there, it's
for
not
others,
allowed?
But helicopter rides you would.
Okay.
Under 23, you got recreational rental sales and supplies.
Yeah, see, I thought that would be kind of recreational too, and if you're gonna put in a shop to do that, why not?
Well, yeah, all depends what your definition
Also
is.
like,
I think so too.
Are you telling me to put in aircraft?
No, we just got
We
under
think it fits on, the board thinks it fits
Aviation.
under recreational.
recreational.
A recreational vehicle, guys, is a real definition, and it refers to a
Four-wheelers, ATVs, any of that stuff.
exactly, power sports.
ultralight with that.
Motorcycles, dirt bikes,
Could be, yeah.
and it's an aviation.
Okay, so
Oh,
DC3 is the cocaine dealers here.
I'd be afraid to
Why
include
not?
aviation because where do you draw the line?
Oh, what the hell, let's go to space program too.
747 coming right down.
You gotta have, hey, you
Boeing will have a
Okay, let's-
drive-through.
You're losing your board there, Mr. Chairman.
Number one to go.
Okay,
well,
okay.
let's put it this way, if that's the case, you got the landing strip of Kennebunk going downtown, at least they got street lights for the runway.
We,
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm control here.
Perfectly okay, but everybody's entitled to their opinion, and we'll try to treat each other with a little respect.
Yeah.
So let's move on, I think we've got, and that's.
So am I supposed to put in aircraft?
Humor, I think that was good.
Yes or no, Mr. Chairman?
The majority think that it probably fits the town planner, and it says no, that there's a specific definition, which I really don't find in our.
No, I haven't read
In our thing, so we can review that at that time, but it doesn't seem like too many people really support it. I think for that kind of sales are usually done at an airport, and we don't have an airport.
Not yet.
But, okay, so,
Better put it on.
yeah.
Somebody changed it.
And we won't unless we get it in.
It's right on the town line.
So, I know, it seems like there ought to be something with that.
Well, how about manufacturing? I got that question, because that's come up before, and we never really made a decision on that. I believe John had brought that up. Whether or not manufacturing should be part of it. We already have smaller scale manufacturing. I'm not sure that we want to necessarily exclude it. And the reason I say that is, I think an Arundel machine could do just as well in the DB1, the DB2 district as it can in the B1 district.
Yeah. Well, I think as long as it meets
Because we already-
all of the ordinance requirements for sound and operation
It's
and
still a low impact.
and all of the nuisance stuff, and that's not, yeah.
That's why our definition, see, our definition of low impact's really weird. Our definition of, if you look at it, it's more oriented towards craftsmen. It's like the
Look what
wood
was
shop, it's
written
the
on it.
furniture, it's like Houston's place, you know, that's low impact, or like Dagwood, remember, or not Dagwood, Dagtone. Dagtone, and that's a small carpentry shop or fine furniture shop.
Okay, I'm gonna read the definition, because we all get different interpretations, but our definition and the ordinance that we're looking at, establishments engaged in the manufacturing, assembly, research, or processing of products and goods, with all the operations occurring entirely within an enclosed structure, not exceeding 5,000 square feet of floor area, producing no objectionable noise, glare, odor, vibration, smoke, or dust associated with the operations, detectable outside the building and where there is no outdoor storage of raw materials.
5,000 square feet is a small facility.
That's right.
Your manufacturing, there isn't a limitation on it, that's making of goods and articles by hand or machinery. Manufacturing shall include assembling, fabricating, finishing, and packaging. So neither one was geared toward the artisan, but really low impact and then a larger operation. And I agree with you totally that I don't know why we would want to exclude it as long as it
I'm in
meets all of
favor
our
of
nuisance.
any manufacturing.
Yeah,
But
I think manufacturing should be allowed. How about you? Greg's in favor?
I'm in favor.
Roger?
I'm not sure, I mean, there's all kinds of manufacturing, we'd have to have some exceptions. Certain types of manufacturing, you probably wouldn't want in a business district.
Maybe we should be conditional.
You gotta kind of go where the comp plan says too, right?
Well, no, because we're gonna define the comp plan on this one.
Okay, I mean, if you're gonna change.
We're gonna change it.
Yeah.
You know, if we, the comp plan, we're getting our inspiration for doing this with the comp plan, but we're going a little beyond the comp plan. And I think that's why it's a good thing that we're gonna be doing the comp plan rewrite to include that. Because I think they were really pushing towards the
No
15,000 square foot
vibration,
area.
no nothing at the boundary, what's the, who cares?
We have to have those conditions though.
Yeah, but, see, our low impact manufacturing calls out all of those, that it produce none of those. Our regular manufacturing doesn't call out all of those, but I think those same exemptions should apply. They can be larger, but they still have to control odor, noise, and all of that.
So anyway, my square footage, they could be
Yeah.
Quick
Into
note,
that.
you know, you mentioned a comp plan.
Well,
Well,
into that.
you gotta approve the comp plan before you can, so you gotta make sure that when the comp plan committee puts something that gets approved, in order to approve this ordinance, if you're going that
We
way.
can do it simultaneously, can't
Hopefully they'll both
we? And
pass.
that's the goal, that's what I've been instructed to do,
Yeah.
is to do it simultaneously. We will actually be having coordinated meetings between the two bodies. We'll have
Yeah, but
co-meetings.
will that be, I know it's a ways down the road, but will
It's
it
a
be
year.
will it be a different warrant, comp plan, and then the ordinance?
Comp plan first, ordinance second.
But, all right, so that's what I'm getting at, is wanna make sure that you fit it so that the comp plan passes. We've had problems in the past with passing comp plans. And, but, you know, the past is a past, we, you know, we wanna move forward, but I mean, you know.
And
And hopefully
ordinance
what
can
we'll
be-
do is we'll fold the economic development into the new comp plan. So we'll give it a new dimension as well from that standpoint, because right now, our current comp plan has no economic plan. So,
But we could also do it in, instead of having the whole package, if you turn it and amendments to the comp plan, when that section would pass, and then in turn would allow the ordinance to come through.
Okay.
Instead of turning it and saying a whole package deal of just one comp plan and that's it.
well, the
Because
ordinance
we've
is
had
gonna be
sections of it when we turned it came through, like on Kate's Butter. Because that was a change.
I think, well, Marty, we agreed though that we're gonna take this whole ordinance as one unit to town meeting, we're not gonna break it up into pieces.
I'm just,
And I know what you're saying, you know, if, we'd have to do the same thing with the comp plan, but, you know, the objective, I think the strategy would be to fold the economic development into the comp plan, that gives it more meat and more palatability, if you will. Because I think the comp plan's gonna draw off the economic development plan too. It can be interwoven as they should be.
Okay.
So getting back to your your list, maybe manufacturing should be a conditional. not
Manufacturing, that was gonna be my suggestion, if the low impact manufacturing's there, manufacturing is conditional use, and then we can apply all of the things.
Just take
Yeah,
manufacturing, low impact out there and put manufacturing.
Well, we have two different manufacturing in our definition. We can do that. We can do that. But then, how do you
Can't you
I
sign
mean,
them?
the definition?
Well, if we do manufacturing, we don't need low impact, because low impact will come under manufacturing, correct?
Yes.
Only if we apply the standards of low impact. Low impact has to be totally contained inside, no outside storage, no noise outside the boundaries of the building, et cetera, et cetera. A bigger unit may have outside storage, and the noise may be at the perimeter of their lot, with screening, et cetera. I mean, that, to me, I see two different, and we have a small contained unit, 5,000 square feet or less, for low impact manufacturing. The manufacturing, there was no limit ever imposed, because we were primarily looking at that up in the BI district.
So you're saying that manufacturing low impact would be a permitted, manufacturing would be a conditional?
Correct. If it's not all contained in, then they gotta come up with the plans to show that it fits into the area, et cetera.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So we keep those two definitions.
Right.
Yeah. And the easy way is just to make manufacturing itself a conditional use, make low impact manufacturing permitted.
And then low impact manufacturing, are we going to eliminate the 5,000 foot cap?
For low
5,000
impact?
square foot cap for low
I
impact?
think it's easier to contain it and know where it is. If it's
5,000
un-
is really small facility.
Yes, it is.
But that's all right, because if they need
Can't
larger, no, if they need larger, then they still have to manufacture it as a conditional use.
And both of them are gonna come before the board, eh? Well, not necessarily.
How many
Low
go
impact
forward?
manufacturing.
Where's the definition for low impact manufacturing?
Page 12 of our definition. The last item of the page. Our current ordinance.
Current ordinance.
Our
Well,
current-
that's the current ordinance, we're writing a whole new ordinance.
I don't have it
Yeah,
in there.
this is a-
This is a new ordinance.
Well,
The
wait a minute.
old definitions don't have to stand in here.
So,
Well,
what's the square root of 5,000?
My point being, then you need a new definition.
I guess 50 by.
Page 24 in section 3, we have a definition
Yeah,
for
Just
manufacturing.
manufacturing.
Just
For just manufacturers, there's no low impact
So
manufacturing.
maybe Chad needs to write
I mean, that's,
for the.
I had eliminated low impact.
I don't think we should give that
I had eliminated.
I think it's 20 by 50.
Where are you
That
at?
little thing?
In the proposed
Section
one?
3, no, in the proposed one, the draft
But
one.
the main
Section 3.
Page 24,
Yeah,
just manufacturing. is
yeah.
that one.
I had gotten rid of low
120
impact
by-
manufacturing.
350.
That's why it's not in there.
That's a lot bigger.
Okay, so
So
if you use this definition, then you have to make your decision whether to have it permitted or conditional.
Oh, it's definitely conditional.
Okay, well, I mean, that's the
I would go, I would.
You either had to redo one of these definitions, which you've just taken one of the two definitions here. We're getting rid of the low impact, so now we just need that determination, right? I mean,
Well, you want me, I mean, the way, you've got two different types of manufacturing. If we bring back low impact and get rid of the 5,000 square foot ceiling on that, then that is a different, that's more contained type of manufacturing than what the straight definition of manufacturing is. Straight definition for manufacturing would apply in the BI district, which you are gonna have outdoors, outdoor piles of material, and you are gonna have product that's stored outside. And you are gonna have outbuildings, because that's what manufacturing is all about. Large scale manufacturing is gonna have supply that's not gonna be all undercover. Although these days, actually, that is how it's pretty much being done.
But why would you force a real small manufacturing to go through the planning board? Why can't it just go through, why can't it just be a permitted use?
Yeah.
And go through your review?
and that's why,
Well, only because, guys, one thing, remember, our review is very limited. We're very, site plan review. We have a administrative site plan review, but it's very limited in terms of what we can do at the staff level.
Does that?
If you're gonna go build a new manufacturing facility here in the town, you're still gonna have to go through site plan. Because let's say you're doing a Arundel machine, another Arundel machine, you're doing 10,000 square foot building. And let's say another 5,000 square foot annex or something like that. That's gonna go to the planning board. It's not going to the planning board to determine whether or not the use is suitable in that location. It's gonna go to check the parking, the drainage, and all the rest of that stuff. That's what it's gonna go through the planning board for. Unless it's on a pre-approved lot.
So, but then why, but I agree with Dan, why would we make a small manufacturer that's maybe 1,000 square feet to come in and go through all that? And we're not doing that to all these other permitted uses.
Sure you are.
Well, they'll still have to have the road and dimensional requirements and all that, but what would make,
They still have to go through the review process with you guys.
but for all, but then.
Unless there's such a little facility that, remember, you know,
For the
look at your site
plan.
plan, look at your site plan review process, which we've had in place for, what, a year and a half now, 2 years? Site plan, we still have a review process for
Okay,
anybody
so-
who's building something non-residential or multifamily that's new. If they're disturbing the soil, if they're more than, what, 2,000 square feet, I think, now it's 1,000 square feet in area.
So what other conditions will we be looking at if it was a full manufacturer, that it's conditional use? What would make that different than just a site plan review?
Not a lot. The thing about a conditional use is you would set certain conditions for a conditional use. That's what a conditional use means. It means it has certain additional restrictions that a permitted use doesn't. You could say retail. Say, this retail facility's gotta meet all of the site plans. It's gotta have the right kind of parking, it's gotta have a little landscaping around, it's gotta have the right lighting and so forth. It's gotta have all that. A conditional use would be, like a campground is a conditional use. Oh, you've gotta be,
Fire safe, all that?
you've gotta be 300 feet from a residence.
Yeah.
You've gotta have only one way in. You've gotta have a certain percentage of this, you've gotta have a certain percentage of that. I mean, you look at.
And you're seasonal.
Kate's, look, seasonal, Kate's. Those all had a big list of conditions, did they not?
So
Those were separate from the conditions that a retail would have to do just coming in
So
through
you're
site.
saying that
That's a
then a
conditional
small
use.
manufacturer, let's say someone welds frames for a trailer or something, that's
Right.
all they do, it's real, two
Right.
people work there.
Right.
They'd have to come in for the full conditional review, but would it be a burden to them? No, I'm thinking it wouldn't be a burden to make sure we're just gonna have just a 1,000 square foot shop. Maybe it doesn't matter, maybe it's not an issue if they meet all the requirements.
Well, you're bringing up the question of whether or not we need review of projects.
For small ones, I guess.
I mean, and you wanna have smaller projects go, if you want to expand the capability of the staff review committee to review more projects than what we currently are limited to, we'll entertain it.
Maybe I'm getting this wrong.
Don't you do 1,500 square feet or
I
something?
believe it's 1,000.
I'm looking at it now.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna.
We're only 810 square feet in parking, which is about 3 parking spaces in the backup. That's it.
Okay.
So all these other permitted uses, even though it's permitted,
Yeah.
they still have to come in for the full review.
If they're doing something new.
It's a new site.
Yeah. Now, the guy who went in who did the marijuana facility, he was building nothing new. He was building nothing new. What he was doing was he was doing a change of use in that particular area, and it was a staff level review.
Okay, so if someone, this well.
Actually, it was agriculture, that's why. Agriculture was conditional in that area. We've had a couple of, there's somebody going to the carpet place who doesn't come to us at all, because they're not making any changes in the building.
So if there was this welder and his son that was 2,000 square feet, it's still, even if we moved into an existing building, if we don't have low impact manufacturing, they would still have to come in for the full review, even though they're just moving in the building and not doing anything different.
No, if they weren't doing anything differently, no. Why would they have to come in?
That's what I want to hear.
Remember, the thing that triggers site plan, the thing that triggers site plans are site improvements. That's why it's called site plan. You're making site improvements necessary for your business. You are putting in more parking. You're building a building. You're expanding a building. you're making changes to the site.
I guess I'm not
Making
clear
changes to the parking.
where the conditional list, for what the difference would be. So let's say we have a big warehouse, and now a manufacturer wants to move in that big warehouse. They would have to, even though it's the existing building, they would have to come in for a full review.
Change of use.
It's a change of use, but the question is it a change of use that's a
Lot-
is it conditional use, or is it a permitted use? If it's a permitted use and they're not making any changes there, they probably could just get an administrative review.
4,000 square feet or more for
Yep,
that. for
4,000
change
square
use.
feet or more for administrative, or is that, yeah, right?
Yeah.
After that, it goes to the planning board
Okay.
for a change of use.
Okay. Very good.
Now, question, how about if we have agricultural or medical, okay? How does that work, let's say if somebody wanted to come in and establish a growing store? Where would that come under?
A growing store, you mean farm retail?
No,
They just want to have a retail store with
growing marijuana or anything else. Medical, which is allowed in the town. Where would that come underneath? As a classification, is that retail? Or is that agricultural?
Well-
Or is that,
I would have to say that would be agricultural right now, because I proposed to you guys to identify marijuana production as a separate use, and you chose not to do that.
when?
When I asked about it, a couple of months, about a month ago, when I asked about medical marijuana,
Yeah.
I asked about taverns, I asked about tattoo parlors, and you guys said, don't want to do anything different about it. So,
I don't.
It's agriculture.
That's what I'm asking.
right now, though, agriculture isn't a permitted use in that
It
district.
might have been the meeting you were at.
Yeah, you might have not been.
I would-
But those were three issues I had brought up. Oh, and adult businesses too.
Okay, so if we can get back to the low impact versus manufacturing, two different arguments going on. One, just have it be manufacturing, and here we'll use the definition, we'll put it under conditional. The other one, and I think what you're suggesting, is that we use the low impact manufacturing definition with all of the standards that apply to low impact, but take out the size. Is that what I heard?
Yep.
The only nuance there is that the low impact is all contained inside, where the larger manufacturing, most of it does have storage outside even for processing. So I just want to make sure.
Well, under your definition of low impact, does it include outside storage?
No,
Okay, so.
everything has to be contained inside for low impact.
So you won't have to worry about what size?
I mean, that's what's, and I know that's what's current, but we need to make sure that the new definition, if we're gonna put manufacturing down, we wanna make sure we're all, know what we're doing. We don't want some huge thing up against the residential areas in the back, or we do. And we want stricter standards, or we don't. And I'm not advocating for one or the other, I'm just saying those are the two arguments that are out there. Or suggestions.
Residential, we would have some pretty good buffers, I would hope.
Well, we haven't even really gone into that.
Yeah.
We have to define those buffers. Look, I have no problems with low impact is almost in a sense a conditional use in itself, by its definition. You're saying all this stuff has to be contained.
Correct.
Yeah, that, in order to meet that definition, you're gonna have to prove that everything you do is that. If we're gonna make manufacturing a conditional use, that means we've gotta devise specific conditions it's got to meet. Remember, we're not doing conditional use the way we used to do, which was everything was a conditional use. When we do a conditional use, it's a use that's permitted if they meet certain conditions, if they achieve certain standards, okay, that are specific to that business, to that industry. That's what a conditional use is, okay, and it requires a little higher. We've used it as a suitability. In the past, conditional use has been a suitability, whether or not this is really suitable for the neighborhood. We can do that with conditional uses, but we've got to set the standards for that. With a permitted use, we're saying, you know, a low impact is, yes, you're permitted to come in here and you're gonna have to go through site plan if you're gonna build a building, but As long as everything's indoors and there's no vibration, fine, you can be there. You can be 20,000 square feet, you can be 3,000 square feet, you can be 100,000 square feet. You're just gonna have to meet that very small definition of having all materials contained indoors, and to be, no impact, no, whatever it says.
Yeah, that's what it said.
It says, producing no objectionable noise, glare, odor, vibration, smoke, or dust.
And those are kind of the standards that you're talking about.
Yeah, it's included in that, that's
And
what
that's why I was saying, this one has the standards, the bigger one.
it has the standards, the bigger one doesn't.
So,
So what you're saying basically is, under those circumstances, I'll bring back low impact manufacturing and include it in here. Manufacturing I've got for B1, which does allow outdoor storage and does allow all that stuff. If we want to make a distinction between those two manufacturings, I'll put low impact back in.
how does everybody, I'm just looking at the issue.
I have a few thoughts on that. First, it is gonna be near the DB1 district, right behind is residential, so I think anything goes manufacturing, we have to be careful with that. Because it will affect the good businesses that we want up front. That's one thing. The other is, what Marty brought up earlier, is the fire issues. The size of a facility has probably a direct impact on emergency response.
Yes, it does.
So that's one of the things with low impact. Once you get over a certain size, then do we have the emergency response to be able to handle a facility? Because we're not saying what they're doing in there. It could be highly flammable, a toxic chemical.
They could be a fertilizer plant.
It could be. You know what happens there? And that town had no fire department either.
They don't now.
I was not.
Well, they don't now, yeah. They did.
Well, do we have the response
Not a good one.
capability for storage?
No.
And yeah, we've.
But we have mutual aid.
We have mutual aid.
Okay.
But, what you're talking about is really, this is where the conditional part of manufacturing comes into place. Because it's exactly as you're saying. Fertilizer plant is manufacturing, a natural gas compression plant to compress it into 30-pound tanks. That's a lot different than a wood products, than let's say, wood products.
Okay, yeah.
Making trusses.
Yeah.
It's different than making dyes like W. Cushing does.
Yeah.
Let's say W. Cushing decided to manufacture dyes.
Yeah.
It's totally different than so I think we should gotta really think about this definition of what constitutes low impact manufacturing. It's not just dust and noise, it's also gonna be the nature of the material.
Yeah.
And maybe we need to think about
And we
that.
might need to, yeah. I think we do.
Because there are certain things, certain kinds of, and I'm really glad you brought that up, because I was feeling uneasy about this. But I really do like that idea of thinking very carefully about we're going to be in a dense area, and what is suitable kind of manufacturing given the potential for a West Texas.
Small ammo manufacturing facility.
Which Roger wants to start immediately since 22 is only there.
Hey, there's an ammo manufacturer up in Farmington called Atlantic Ammo. He makes new ammunition.
We're doing well these days.
No.
So that's
Like-
Depends on the amount of, depends on the amount of storage in the plant.
So that's a small community it is, so if you have that kind of operation here, like, that can be dangerous.
Well, yeah, it can be, any explosive, I grew up I lived for a while in City, Connecticut, which had, ammo man, that, maybe Colt ammunition, or back when Colt ammo. Yeah.
We're doing.
Yeah, they've blown up a few
They,
times.
they literally do. If you go by the buildings, they have hinges on the roof.
Yeah.
They have blow-away roofs. You know it. Yep.
Okay, so you're going to think about the manufacturing a little bit more, back with kind of,
All right, so
a
limitations on
recommendations
what we
and-
think was appropriate and what is not appropriate for that particular
Yeah.
area.
and
We do have, last one I'll say, we do have the B&I for the larger scale thing, and so we're not restricting it in town, but think a slightly less impact, some, the size may be an issue.
Size, it may not be as much an issue as material produced.
Yeah.
Alright, that's after all what zoning is for.
We only have a few more minutes, and I really think these other ones can be done if we kind of get through them. I think if everybody's in agreement with the conditional uses, we were going to,
Take out the side requirement?
Yeah,
You
don't
guys are taking out the side requirement for.
well, he's gonna come back with a recommendation, and that was part of his argument that was coming out for low impact. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna add to it the question of materials produced, what the product is. I've got to examine that.
Yeah, you probably should look at like the fuel storage too, if that should be a conditional rather than a permitted.
Fuel storage, I agree.
Well, we're gonna, remember, when we do conditional uses, we're gonna do it differently than we used to. All conditional uses are gonna be in section 11, and if something is a conditional use, it's gonna have a listing of the conditions that it must meet, no different than we do with campgrounds or solid waste facilities. That's what a conditional use has. It has a whole bunch of special conditions that aren't gonna apply to retail or an office complex or something. They're specific to that kind of use, and they must meet those standards. That's really what makes a conditional use, not arbitrarily whether you like it or not. So,
Yeah, but the board hasn't been arbitrary.
I'm not saying you have, I'm not, but you see,
You know,
the perception is that is what a conditional use has been in Arundel. That's what I hear from people. Oh, the board can do whatever it wants to under conditional use. No, it can't.
well, I mean, this
It never
board is-
could.
This board has fought very hard to change that perception and say, because it's conditional doesn't mean that
It's
you
permitted.
can't have it. You just gotta follow what's in there.
Exactly.
If
But
it
that's
goes
what the
to-
perception is.
If it goes to health, welfare, safety of the community, then we have that latitude to put conditions on it, period. That's what our
Well,
regulations say.
and you have the ability to do conditions under site plan too. But these are conditions that you set up front that they have to.
Does the board kind of agree with that fuel storage distribution though?
I think that-
For operation size, clothing, safety? We're gonna move that to
Conditional.
conditional.
Yeah.
Under the space and bulk requirements in the DB2, I didn't see any problems with that.
Well, we haven't gotten to setbacks yet. I mean, remember we had some significant setbacks. We had setback to a residential property in the R2 district as being 100 feet.
Mhm.
Some uses that may not be enough, and other uses it may be too much.
Yeah, I'd like to look at
It's
that.
on your lot size.
Well,
Well, lot size got, I mean, makes a determination of what you're gonna put on there, but it's really the impact of the use.
lot size doesn't determine where you put it on that lot. I mean, you butt it right up next to it. If you only have a 10-yard setback and you have 10 miles of property and the residence is 20 feet away, that didn't help me.
And on this chart, that we do have the family units, even though we're not really allowing them.
Yeah. We're gonna take those out. I had put those in there because I thought we might talk about multifamily, but if you wanna go congregate care, or you wanna look at something like that, or 55 and older, I mean, we still don't have a definition. Still don't have a clear idea whether you guys wanna go with a PUD kind of development.
PUD?
Yeah, planned unit development, which is what Bob was really talking about. It's talking about a planned community that has a variety of different kinds of housing
Services.
types, and it has services on site, and whether that be doctor's offices or, drugstores, something like that, services that serve the community on site.
I don't know if we're opposed to that, though, we just.
You're not opposed to it, but right now you're saying that we don't want multifamily residential, and that would be multifamily residential.
Maybe we need another definition for,
Well, we have a PUD ordinance, you may want to look at that PUD ordinance again.
Where?
Okay? It should be in your book.
Yeah, I forget what
You tested it out actually in a separate,
No, it should be in here.
It should be in the- Well, no, I think we took it out because it was
I think I
separate.
trashed it when we decided not
I
to.
think I might have yanked it because you guys wanted me to yank it.
Wait, planned mixed-use development district.
Yeah.
Page 9.4.
Yeah, but I don't think there is any 9 anymore. I got mobile home overlay district.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there. Page
Holy mackerel, there it is.
Page 119.
I didn't yank it. There's the PMUD.
Well, well,
Let's look at it. You gotta, you're gonna have to specifically say where those are, though, right?
Yeah, and remember, we wrote this as a floating zone.
What was the argument?
Contract zone?
Yeah.
that's where I think we decided not to include it, because
Yeah.
you gotta use
The
that.
word contract.
Well, it's not a contract zone though, gentlemen. A contract zone means anything, you come in and tell us what you want to do, and then we'll make a deal. It's very specific. It's not gonna be a contract zone when it's got conditional uses in it.
But
The
why,
uses
why
are
would
all
we have to go
conditional.
that far, though, if you had like a elderly housing type of
Well,
thing?
look at this and look at the way it's set up, because it shows a percentage. If you go, we're running out of time.
Yeah.
But
Well,
if
we
you
can
really,
look at this next time.
look at it next time, but more importantly, look at the relationships on section 944, which is the space involved, and it starts looking at the relationships between the mix of uses. And you see 945 has a distribution of uses. Now, it doesn't matter if this pertains anymore, because this was a floating zone that was gonna be allowed in a variety of different districts. But look at what it talks about in terms of no single use shall exceed 80% of the total building square footage. It says a minimum of 30% of the project should be retained in dedicated open space. And you can also have residential in there. I mean, it's got a residential density of 40,000 square feet. You're gonna have a mixture of residential and business in there. You can change these densities around, but it basically says these are target mixes of uses that you've gotta have in this district in order to qualify as a PMUD. So we can adapt those for the DB1 to DB2 district if we wanted to give us more flexibility.
But you've already decided that DB2 is only gonna be residential as subordinate to a business.
Right.
You guys have already decided
So-
that.
So that means it's gonna have to be 50%, at least 51% business and at least 40, and at the very most 49%. Or it could be less, it could be, I think in this it's,
Could be
it
80-20.
could be 80-20. It could be
Who cares how big the
60-40.
house is, as long as it's subordinate to the business,
Yeah, you can.
right?
Well, you say subordinate to business, but in this situation, you have multitudes of businesses. Right? You wouldn't have just, you could have one business, except in this you can't. 80%, you can't have more than 80% being dedicated to one particular business. So it requires mixed, Now, that's one way of doing it. The other way, Dan, is as you're saying, yeah, you can have residential, it's got to be subordinate to whatever business that is. What's that? We have to be very specific on what subordinate means. That means it's what? It's secondary, it's
That means it's
49%
like what you
the
have
same
over
area?
on Kate's Butter.
Okay, well, then we gotta be that specific. 'Cause that
It's
was very
subordinate to the
specific.
business, it's a business and somebody lives there to oversee it, to, you know, whatever.
But what happens when we have, let's say that we've got an office park of businesses, and there's also a residential component, but they're not sitting on top of that business.
You have that as
So
a
they're
storage
standalone?
unit.
How do we
You have-
do that?
You have that
Yeah,
as a storage
standalone,
unit.
they're not part of it. Well, right now you can make it standalone. Right now you can have a standalone, you can have a business in the front and a single family house in the rear.
Yeah.
You can do that.
And who cares?
Nobody says you have to have it in the traditional Jane Jacobs, urban design where it's right over the top of the bakery. You could have a business, I have a lot, we remember contractor storage yards would be, almost qualifies that. Remember that the house has got to be, the business has to be behind the house. Remember that in one district? It'd be the opposite, the business is got to be in front of the house.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I stand corrected, we're not gonna get through this tonight.
Are you delivering two-family and multi-limited in the 23?
One and two, not multi, right?
1 and 2? Okay.
Well,
What do you do? Sorry. Say that.
23 in the,
you know, I think we need to discuss that more, too.
that's gonna be part of the congregate definition and what that
For the
is.
PUD?
No, he's gonna come back with it.
Okay.
Very
We
definite.
need a definition.
You're gonna come back with two kinds of definitions for us, right, Ted?
Which one? On
The
which
con-
issue?
Congregate housing, what those
Congregate
facilities
facilities.
are and what that might the wording might be, as well as the manufacturing, new term of manufacturing. So I guess the multifamily, depending on what that definition is still a question mark, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it's still a question mark.
I'm getting the feeling right now that you guys aren't ready to throw out multifamily because you're not ready to completely dismiss residential.
Yeah, I think we need to.
You're just looking at residential, making sure that residential doesn't take valuable business space, that doesn't dominate. That this zone that we're working so hard on doesn't become a residential zone instead of business.
Right.
That's why I'm thinking, you're saying it doesn't make a difference how big the dwelling is, like, if I've got a 8,000 square foot dwelling and I've got a small office repair shop for doing computers in the front. I'm using,
Taxes on the 8,000 square foot building.
but if that 8,000
What
square.
for kids to do through the school system?
Yeah, that's right, put more kids in the school system. Okay.
Oh, definitely.
So we're gonna pick this back up at 733.
Okay.
Well, please, everybody, review the PMUD. We'll get the, I'm gonna say congregate house and multifamily manufacturing. Also look at these terms that are in here for the design standards, new construction, rehab, and review. A lot of it's not required, and I agree. And the off-street parking and loading requirements, I think we can hit those. And any of these standards that we think should apply to all of the items that we've identified as conditional use. All of those, we're gonna have to have the standards ready by the time we submit this. So anything that you feel is a standard that it must meet, and it can be, Marty, to yours, adequate fire safety, road, and then that goes to the fire standard, but it's another look and another movement toward those things. Okay, so we did get a planner's report. Any of the board have any other business tonight that they'd like to bring up? Public comment, Dan, you're the only one left tonight. Thanks for your input so far. So we're at the final item.
Move to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn. Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? And it's unanimous. We're adjourned at 9:58.
Job is always.
I just call it 10 o'clock. That's what it is.